All right, we are live. Thank you, uh, thank you, everyone, for coming and watching us on Thursday night. It's a bit of a later stream, which actually is really nice for me. I don't know about you, Eric, but it's kind of nice. I get everything done, spend a little time with Meredith, and then I'm down here, which actually is really nice for me. Oh, I could hear me talking.
Sorry.
Okay. So
I was trying to find the chat.
We've got Dan Genovesi here, Supersonico is here, Lance DeBoyer, Henry Jeremick. Looks like the whole crew is with us. Ryan Wilcox, Story by Osmosis is here. Story by Osmosis is a very, very good artist. I don't know if you've seen the stuff, Kurt, but before I just keep going on, I want to say that we are incredibly fortunate and thrilled to have a great colorist. You guys all know him from Color with Kurt. He's Kurt Michael Russell, and he's worked on Hack Slash with Tim Seeley and Blue Flame Vault and Money Shots and End After End. Oh no, Blue Flame is with Vault. Vault is a publisher. I'm so sorry.
It's all Vault stuff except for Hack Slash, yeah.
And upcoming End After End, that's coming up pretty soon. So, yeah.
Welcome. Hello.
I'm the worst with these. I need to work on this. You know what? I need some kind of a live stream coach. So
no, dude, I like it much better when it's just like, dudes that are just like to draw and don't really know what they're doing. That's where I put myself. No,
it's really what it is.
Who needs production?
That's right.
You do have this fancy Superman thing around the edge, which I think is great. That's better than I've got.
Yeah, I had a stream that I did ages and ages ago, and I put that up because it was like an appropriate image for I think we had Richard Friend who inked that picture as a guest, and I liked it. I never took it down. It's just been there. So yeah, we're gonna be. Well, we won't be. Kurt will be coloring Moon Knight. This is from the stream. I think a lot of you guys saw this a few weeks ago. I penciled it on Monday Night Draw. And then we had Jimmy Reyes ink it just about 2 weeks ago. He did a beautiful job. And so here it is finished. And it really came together incredibly well. So now I am very, very excited to see it get colored. And, for all of us, this is really, it's a nice opportunity to see a picture really from the beginning all the way through the process, right up to, print, which is a whole other thing. I don't know what you know about that, Kurt or Eric, but I know nothing. What's it?
I know enough to be dangerous.
See, there you go. I don't even know that. I know my part of the job.
Well, yeah, what I know from coloring is actually a lot from Kurt's channel. He's got fantastic tutorials there. The one kind of recent tutorial, I think before Kurt colored your Spider-Man, was the How I Color Comics with Clip Studio. It's version 3, I guess, of your process, and that totally transformed the way I look at coloring and making selections and everything else. So that tutorial was incredible. I'm actually going to paste it into the chat so others can watch it as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot. There's I appreciate hearing it. That's what keeps the channel going, honestly. is there I get so many comments from people that said he learned something or picked up a trick, and that's the cool part for me. I guess before I just start diving in, I'll sort of explain the setup here technically, and then talk a little bit about sort of my plan. And I apologize for you guys are going to hear like all sorts of like laughter and noise and bells ringing, and it's like it's bunko night at my house. I don't know what that is. It's a bunch of ladies in my living room doing rituals or something. I don't know, but anyway, so the inks are I've got on a layer on top, and I use Clip's little feature. This is like a 12-step process in Photoshop, but in Clip you can just click convert brightness to opacity, and it just immediately puts that on a transparent layer, and keeps all of the alpha for the opacity too. So even if it's grayscale, that works. So it's a button. I literally have a button. I mean, that's where it is, but I have a button here that does that.
I've done this in Photoshop, and a couple of times, and every time I've had to search.
It's like go to channels, copy, paste, 12 steps. I'm not even kidding. It's 12 steps. Okay.
Well, and I'm on the internet looking for
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And then below there's just base colors here is what this is where I'm going to be doing a lot of the coloring. This is the flats layer. Now I work with a flatter. If you don't know what that is, then it's the person that does this. They go in with a lasso tool, the magic wand, and all that stuff, and they separate all the elements out. Now Moon Knight is usually one color, but you still want to separate all the little parts out, so I can easily slide a shadow under a shoulder or something. So even though he is all one color, the flats don't really have any creative. They're not a creative part of the process at all. They're literally technically there for me to just be able to grab selections very quickly, and I'll show you what that means. So like on this flats layer, the clip has a feature called reference layers, and it's this little lighthouse button right here. And if you click that, the wand, when set to refer to reference layers, will grab from that layer. And this is really, really helpful because you don't have to be constantly going down to your flats layer to like re-grab a selection.
So you're in your painting layer, and then you can just select from the flats layer without ever moving. That's
exactly.
Is that possible with Photoshop?
No. Another reason I use Clip. The reference layers are like the reason I think I use Clip Studio. It makes me so much faster. And then this last one, I call it Big Flats, but it's just like it is just what you see here, the biggest elements, so if I really quickly want to grab just his entire silhouette or something, I can do that kind of easily. What I will probably, you can also do that with Alpha Lock, and there's different ways to do that. But anyway, that's how I handled it. So technically, that's what's happening. Now, from a big picture plan standpoint, I did do a bit of a sketch beforehand. I won't show it because I want you guys to hopefully be surprised at the end. But I normally do that in my head, but with this here with you guys and here with Dave, I didn't want to get on the stream like I usually do and just try to figure out the page in real time. So I did do a little bit of planning ahead of time. So hopefully this will be okay when I'm done with it. And I'm just gonna get started. If you guys have questions, and I'll talk through whatever I can think of to talk.
Anthony G has a comment for $4.99. Thank you so much, Anthony. He says everything I learned about coloring digitally, I learned from Kurt.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much. How much? Yeah, that's great. Just on all your invoices from here on out, just 10%. Just send those to me. I mean, and you didn't read the fine print on the description probably, but yeah,
50% off.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris Reader says, my wife is jealous that it's bunker night at Kurt's house.
Hey, tell her to come on over. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in there. I just stay away.
By the way, I want to mention in the description of the video, we also have some links for Kurt, and you can find his courses. He's got his latest one up there. So I've got two different links, and if you type in code Finch, you can get 50% off, which is, half off. That's a lot. It's more than I would.
And Kurt's Procreate tutorials are fantastic. If you want to learn how to use Procreate, I would highly suggest your first stop needs to be Kurt. He covers everything, and he'll get you up and running very, very quickly in Procreate.
You guys are going to make my head too big to fit in this frame by the end of this thing. But so my plan for this, I was going to tell you that. My plan here, this is, of course, the what do you call them? The Disney Plus, Moon Knight we're looking at here today. And so I've watched the show, and there's a couple of things about the character that stuck out for me that made his version sort of unique. One of those is the fact they use a lot of warm colors. You very rarely ever see Moon Knight colored warmly in a comic book. Like, he's always that cool blue or gray or whatever. So what I'm going to do with this, I really wanted to capture that. Like, I thought that was just something that was unique and kind of cool about him. And right now I'm just sort of roughing in some light. I'm not thinking a whole lot about getting too into the nuts and bolts of this just yet, and all the little nooks and crannies. I'm sort of thinking more in terms of like, this is like the first layer of sculpting, you know what I mean, where it's all big blunt tools and soft tools, and
excuse me, you're
Yeah.
not using a selection right now, or are you?
Well, technically there is a selection, just like his whole body is selected. I've just got it hidden. I hide my selections as like a reaction. Like I do it without even thinking about it. Someone asked, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "Do what?" Like I've done it so long that I don't even like. It just happens with the keyboard shortcut. But
I think your binding was Control H or something, right?
What is it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, that is it. Yeah, that is it. Yeah. Good memory there.
Know all the details. Vincent Yuson has a question. He says, "How long did it take you to color a comic book page for a professional work?" So basically, how long did it take to color a page in a comic?
It varies considerably depending on the page. I will say that most pages when I stream, I can get a lot done in about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Now that's assuming that someone has already flatted it. I do not flat. I am allergic to flatting. I don't like flatting. I don't want to ever flat. That is it's a tedious process. It's not a creative process at all, and so I always have someone flat for me. But that's like a good maybe average. But there are pages that take way longer than that, and there are pages that you get a splash page with a word balloon or something on it sometimes, and you get lucky. But anyway, I'm sort of I am trying something a little different than I normally do with this. Of course, I had to do something different today. But what I'm trying to do now, in order to get the warmth to read, it needs it needs something cool if you want to get the most out of it. I mean, of course, you can do all warm palettes or whatever, but I wanted this to kind of feel like he was kind of just coming out of the dark here, like and so like I like the idea of him kind of starting on the dark side. And then building it up lighter. Whoops. Mm-hmm. And what I'm doing right now, I'm just thinking in terms of, like, to use photography terms, I guess, like a key light, following Dave's shadows here and his line. I didn't really talk about that, but that kind of I would do that without really thinking about it, but figuring out, like, we've got deeper lines on this side of the arm. We've got more hatching. And there's all sorts of indications of a light kind of coming at us from the front and the left, and kind of even with them as far as up and down. And you do need to figure out your light in 3 dimensions, by the way. Like I see a lot of beginner colorists that they think, well, lighting's on the left, so I'm going to light the left. It's like, what if the light's behind him on the left? Or what if it's in front of him on the left? Like, but anyway, I love this drawing so much. I ogled it for quite a while before sketching on it the other day. But one of the things that I noticed, and this is something that I think Dave probably, it's one of those things I think you do without thinking at this point, just because you're a pro and you've been doing it forever. But I love how he sort of has, there's the areas of busy and there's the areas of rest, like, or whatever you want to call it. It's like you've got these deep shadows here near his face, of course near his eyes, lots of sharp angular stuff. I mean, his costume sort of all points right to his face. The big chunky shapes of the cape on both sides. And then you get, like, rest areas on the arms and around the chest, but like all these lines on the chest all point to, the other cool thing in the center. So it's all about, like, the thing and the stuff around it. Like,
it's a great costume design.
It is. It's so complicated. It looks complex.
Lance DeBoyer has a question. He says, sorry if I missed it. Is Kurt using an airbrush setting?
No, this is just like it's just a round. Oh, I've got a selection. It's just a round brush. Like, Just a round brush.
So it's a standard brush.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent. It's called the Photoshop, like FAUX Photoshop. It's a whose brush is this? Somebody in my audience knows if they're in here. It's Friendon. Yeah. He does clip brushes, and they're amazing. They're really, really cool. But I'm kind of, the reason I brought that up is a little bit later when I start like kind of getting more. This is like stage one, you know, like I'm going to do a couple of stages of value on this, and but I will kind of follow Dave's guidance here of let's see, where are we at? Like, as I'm trying to, even within this character, bring out certain areas, like obviously we're going to focus detail, you know, on his upper body, on his torso, on his arms, on his forearms. He's holding a weapon. Like, as human beings, this is the first thing we notice, you know, probably from when we were running around killing each other on the, you know, this caveman or whatever, but we notice heads and hands. So like, you'll notice that in a lot of costumes. Obviously those are big points. So I will sort of subtly draw more attention to those areas too, and leave, you know, some of these, you know, let's say less interesting visually areas, to simpler stuff, you know.
Drew this asks if this is the painterly method. If that's how you would describe it.
Yes, I would. This is kind of painty, and it's a little soft, but that's intentional. Like, the one thing I love, again, not to keep tooting your own horn, Dave, but I like how in the pencils, and then Jimmy brought it out, is that sense of just angularness and sharpness, and right now I'm not doing a lot with that, because that's going to come in like a little later stage when we get into the brighter values. I'll start using a lasso and kind of really bringing out more of this, because right now I feel like, you know, again, this is meant to be rough at this stage, but at this point it's more about just getting the light where I want it, and then this stage will sort of inform all the rest of it. Okay, I will actually use this as a selection, and that way, because once you've established a light source, I mean, technically all the light on that from that light source is going to stay on that side of the Terminator. Mm-hmm. I'm getting into fancy lighting terms like Terminator, but no, like Dave's got, you know, there's Terminators like running along through there and along through there, and so like I'm going to treat everything on the other side of that Terminator differently, like it'll, you know, and so I'm kind of thinking it's a very mechanical way I think of thinking about color, but.
Well, it's foundation, and foundation is so important in every part of artwork. And it's easy to look at it and say, you know, it's kind of color by numbers or draw by numbers. But, you know, having a strong foundation means following, no matter how crazy the art gets, some kind of rules. And for me, you call it Terminator. I call it a
core shadow.
Thank you, core shadow. I totally.
That might be a better. That's probably the I'm terrible at the theory stuff. Like, it's probably the better term for it. It's probably the correct term for it.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt, I mean, you want a repeatable process, and like, you know, like David said, you want that safety net when, you know, you have a really complicated. You want to still be able to follow that process that works for you. So having that mathematical approach is, you know, important.
I used to get upset. Like, I had a colorist one time basically tell me, like, you need to lighten up. Like, you're thinking about this too mechanically, and you know, it's not like that, and this kind of thing. And at first I kind of fought it, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing this wrong. And then, like, I know how my brain works now at 42, and that's how it works. And so I'm going to lean into it 112%. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not going to fight like, oh, I got to be more by feel, and I got to, or whatever, you know. I'm going to do me now, you know? And so
I think some of the best artists out there really work just by feel.
Yeah.
They're outrageously talented, but the risk of that is, if you don't have any core rules that you understand yourself, it can be really difficult to diagnose problems in your own work, and that can be an issue. Christopher Nixon, it would be great if you could elaborate about picking flat colors that are dark enough while avoiding too much black for printing. Colors that don't have much black don't look dark enough to me.
A lot of that is probably all time the most common question that I get, and I understand why, because a lot of beginner colorists, for one, they think that this box, you see this value range from white all the way to black and everything in between. And a lot of people think, all right, well, that's my playground, is I've got all of that to play with. And so they'll pick a color like this and then go, oh, that's brown. And it does look brown, because you're looking at it on a monitor and it's got a light behind it. And so it looks brown. But if you try to print that, it's like, maybe it looks brown, maybe it looks a little grayer, it looks a little muddy, it looks something. I would say and I did a video about this forever ago, but in comics, I'm implying darkness, but I'm not actually using dark colors. Not really. I mean, the darkest color on this, the darkest color it's going to be is, let's see, am I on the wrong display color? There we go. Like, that's a midtone. You know what I mean? And you look at that and go, okay, well, that's not a dark color because I also have that, But what you're not thinking about is all of that range you have in between, because like this right here, this light kind of looks right now, it's brighter than that blue. It looks like a light source, but it's not, again, not a very bright color. It's not even really brighter. It's just warmer,
It's gray. It's really, really desaturated, but it doesn't look that way because of the blue. And so if I start picking colors that are brighter than this, you're like, oh man, that's bright. Well, what is that then? You know what I mean? Like you've got a huge range to work with, even starting with quote unquote, a midtone or whatever. Let's see, where was I? Yeah, there we go. How am I doing on time? What time is it? Where's the clock? 9:21. We're doing great.
Okay.
So this layer you're currently working on is I know you like hard light a lot.
Normally do, yeah.
Are you going to be converting this to hard light, or are you going to use this?
I'm actually not. I wanted to do something different than I usually do today, and wanted to focus more, especially with the focus of this being like a sort of a basic coloring tutorial. Blending modes are awesome. They are huge time savers. They will they will make your life much better as a colorist. And they are very easily like overused as a crutch, and I had someone on my Discord the other day said, Kurt, I tried screen mode, I tried hard light mode, I tried multiply mode, I cannot get the color that I want. And I'm like, okay, well, you're doing something wrong. Like, just go to normal and choose the color you want. Like, people get a little too caught up in blending modes, and I'm guilty for making videos about, we have like the church of hard light on my stream basically at this point. And yeah, they're in here somewhere. I saw a few of them earlier. I'm really not trying to avoid the chat today, so I'm terrible at talking and working at the same time. So I'm doing my best here.
Kenny Wang is in the house. Give him a shout out there.
Hello.
Also, Sheldon Martin is here. I've seen a bunch of people here that I didn't mention in the beginning.
So for the purposes of tonight, I guess you're going to have like light, shadows, and then highlights, special effects. You're just going to break it up into different normal layers, or you're just going to use one?
I will figure that out when I get there, I think. I really don't. I mean, obviously I've got somewhat of a process that I follow, but I really treat really by artist, I treat differently depending on, like, there's so much, and you would think after coloring for 10 years that I'd have settled into like a certain layering process or a certain like flow. And it's like, even this, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever done a cover exactly like I'm doing this one, but I'm kind of a process nerd too. You know what I mean? Like, I like all that stuff, like, so I'm always just trying stuff and seeing what happens. And
yeah, sometimes it's two steps forward and one step back, but that's how you find different things. So
yeah, there's things I'll learn and go, okay, well, I'll do that again, and then you'll pick up stuff like, okay, that was a waste of time or whatever,
I feel like you kind of answered this a little bit, but Vincent is asking, how do you pick color that can print? And you were talking about that.
Oh, about printing specifically. The best thing to do is to I tell you, the only thing I know to do is to use something like Photoshop. I think I just opened this. I think this is the strings thing. There is a function that lets you. I'm just going to fill this with a bunch of. Sorry, by the way.
Yeah, they're having a better time than we are.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there's a party happening in my house right now. I'm going to zoom out so I'm not like killing your eyeballs. RGB, CMYK, Control Y. Okay, so that's the colors that I picked. That's what's going to print. You know, learning the feel for that. There's also a setting in Photoshop. You can Control Shift Y, I think, in the color picker, and you see how this stuff is grayed out. Those are all colors that are out of the CMYK gamut.
Wow.
So there are certain colors, you know, the people that go up and grab that like fire engine red from the top corner, yeah, it's not going to happen. But obviously yellow is a print color that, you know, you get almost all of that. Same with cyan, you know, but the blues and purples, these are brutal. Okay. Like you'll kind of learn over time, like, all right, stay away from saturated purple. It doesn't work, you know? But after 10 years, and honestly, I have like mutant power levels of like detection with this at this point where I'm like, that's not going to work, you know, from like across the room. But not, you know, that comes with time and practice and experience. And that's not helpful in the least.
Well, it was really helpful seeing it just charted on the color picker going up and down.
And I did a video on are you using unprintable colors? That's like the clickbaitiest thing I've ever done. And you know, anyway, but yeah, so right now I'm still like I'm thinking about like this leg is you know, I'm not going to do quite as much detail as I did on the left. You know, even that, like I try to, like, you know, in the real world, when you have an area that is you know, lit, let's say, and you have an area of the shadow, you're going to see more detail in the light than the shadow also, you know. Yeah. And that's something that I think that's something a lot of beginner colorists have to figure out over time is, you know, it's like, and even it's in Dave's line art, you know, there's way more detail and specific, you know, little bits and pieces of fabric, you know, in the well lit side. And then over here in shadow, he didn't just, you know, do the same stuff. I'm not going to do the same thing, but darker. Like it's going to be different. You know, there's going to be different, softer lighting, you know, that kind of stuff.
I get much more just chunky with the shapes, and it gets not as representative because it is something that's supposed to be pushed back. And it's an advantage of working with color and painting over working in black and white. I think for me anyway is right. A lot of times I end up having to shadow or detail areas that it's just not going to show up as well.
Right.
Yeah, Dennis Lilly is saying that Kurt's video about unprintable colors saved one of my commissions. He said he's so grateful.
Hey, every lesson on my channel that I do where it's like, don't do this, or this is what not to do, or like, there is a reason. I learned it the hard way. Like the very first thing that I like ever, I mean, literally the very first thing I ever tried to print, it wasn't even like a publisher thing. Like it was strictly like a portfolio. I was like, well, I'll be slick. I will print an actual like comic book portfolio. You know what I mean? And so I did. And the printer that was nice enough to message me, and they were like, okay, look, we're going to explain something to you. and I basically got like the CMYK dark chat. Because like, you know, they were about to do this print order, and they saw the first one, and it was like, okay, this is garbage. You know, so yeah, all that stuff, man, is, you know, a lot of my videos are like, let me make sure that no one else has to deal with that. You know,
I had no idea, actually. I have to admit, it's something I was not aware of at all.
What's that?
CMYK to RGB, or well, I guess RGB to CMYK. I'd heard of it, but I didn't have any idea just how much of an effect it could have.
Yeah, it has a massive effect, and there's not really a school of thought on. I mean, there's two big schools of thought. There's, there are massive, huge name, award-winning, colorists that color in CMYK and can't imagine doing anything else. And then there's a whole other set of pro colorists doing big name books, and they're all working in CMYK and or RGB and can't imagine any other way, and so it's funny that at least 2 or 3 times a year there's like a nice little Twitter war over, well, no, it's this, and it's all fun and games because it doesn't really matter, but whether it all ends up CMYK at the end, you're going to end up converting anyway, so but it's whatever you're used to. I mean, there's certain blending modes that don't work well in RGB, or they work differently, or and if your process relies on that, then that's going to be a different deal. But, I'm digging this so far. He's looking kind of creepy. I kind of like he's got that look like he's trying to sneak up on me. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah,
as long as it feels like that.
It's looking really good already.
It's like 90% of the way there, and I'm sure it's not, but
it's not. The work is like front loaded. You know what I mean? Like this will come together very, very quickly at the end is what will probably happen. With this though, the other thing, like I mentioned, the warm lighting for him. The other thing is the glowing eyes, and like here's another. Oh, I've got a little circle up there. If you have eyes, this is like a David Finch style tangent lesson here. If you have eyes and you want to make them white, guess what? You can't use around it. And that was such a signature of his character in the show to me. Was like, because his eyes glow in the comics, but he's white anyway, and so it doesn't have the same impact as it does on screen to me, the glowing eyes. And so I was like, he's going to have to be dark if I want to make sure his eyes are popping, as the kids say, as the editors say.
Yeah, I think they're like a bluish, glowing color.
Yeah, like but like just to show you like how far that is from these values I'm doing. It's like it's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's like that's so that's the range of values that we have to work with here.
I just want to point out that you have the whole thing flatted, and you still made selections for that.
Did I? Yeah. Who knows, man? My brain is moving. I got all sorts of things I'm trying to figure out right now. All right, so these moon things are they're like a metallic-y, right? Like they're
it was like
gold?
it was a gold metallic.
Yeah, look.
And then it had fabric too. So
yeah, there's some fabric. I'll clean all that up and detail that some more. I'll probably you'll really see the difference in the metals when we get to like doing like more highlights and reflections. Like that's really where, for me anyway, like that's where you can start defining the texture of things. Is that on the new? Yeah, sorry, there's a mark I'm trying to find. There it is on the layer on top. Anyway,
so
we're good.
There's a big moon in the picture, obviously, but I don't really have him lit from that. He's kind of lit more from the front,
right,
left. It would be his right, I guess, but for us, it would be his left. So, are you thinking about using the moon just as like maybe a cooler backlight, or do you have any?
Yeah. I'm thinking about doing. That's why I'm kind of leaving. It's kind of rough around the backside because I'm thinking I want to do like a real thin, bright rim light on it. There won't be much of it. I don't think it'll need very much at all. I think rim lights are sort of, again, can also be overused. But I was wondering if we do a blood moon. We just had a blood moon. Should we do a blood moon? Is that okay with?
I resemble.
Somebody going to fire me if we make the moon red?
Why not?
Is that what you were going to say, Dave?
What's that?
That you resemble that remark? I know I do with rim lights.
Oh yeah, no, everything needs rim light. Everything.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, it is like they're so freaking handy.
They are. And
they're
yeah,
just, it's like, I really need to separate that edge, and time for a rim light. Like,
Yeah, it's a great way to add contrast. And
I always tell myself when I'm drawing, if I need a rim light, it's because I've failed compositionally. Whatever, I still need rim lights all the time. So you know.
I probably should figure out what color this moon is going to be.
Speaking of which, again, Kurt, sorry, I'm gonna gas you up again. But you did a very, very good tutorial on Fresnel, which is the rim light, Fresnel lighting, where Kurt actually explains why that happens in nature, the science behind it. It was very, very interesting.
I'm glad somebody likes those kind of videos, like, because I think I tend to over explain, and with some people it's like I think it sort of, I think it throws a lot of people. So I'm always glad when somebody, like, okay, somebody actually followed that. You know what, I'm gonna do this on another layer just because that way I can easily shift this later. That's something else that I do a lot of, is easy editability, because like at any point I could come in here and say, what if he was this, or what if he was that, and I'm not going to do that with this, but I like having it when someone comes in and says, man, it would be great if this was a little cooler or warmer or whatever. And the thing is, nobody ever says it, but I prepare for it. Yeah. But no, you screw up a rendering a shirt. I don't want to like render the shirt again. Like, I want to go under it and just change the color. Like, I'm not whatever I can do to avoid what do you call it? Things that are just a pet peeve for me is redoing anything. Like, I never want to redo. Like, I don't mind changes, but I don't want to repaint. Like,
I don't know if this is actually a real quote, but I heard early on in my career that Jack Kirby said he doesn't get paid to erase. So,
Well, there you go. I'm not Jack Kirby. I wish I could swing that around, but oh man. But yeah. So what do I want to do here? Let's start doing some brighter stuff. So this value that I'm using right now is sort of again kind of a midtone, and so I want to jump up about halfway, let's say, to white. I don't want to get all the way. I'm going to shift a little bit toward yellow, I think. Again, like on the warm side, and I'm going to start doing some stuff on this. I'm actually going to clip
what you did there is so important with highlighting. Is you don't just pick a lighter value of the same color. You want to pick a lighter value and then hue shift. It's something that I don't know if you remember Lummage. I think his name was Lummage on YouTube.
Nathan Lum, yeah, he pops in my stream every now and then.
Yeah, and you and him really pound that heavy because it's true. Just lightening a value is going to make it look really washed out. You really want to do a hue shift if it's you want to hue shift warmer in this case. It really makes the colors pop
toward the color of the light, whatever it is.
Yeah. Exactly. And so with this, like, I'm going to start again, especially on its head. It's the focal point if there is a one focal point. And so I definitely want to I'll spend more time here, than I will any other body part. That's something else. Like, I don't think I do a single stream without people asking like how to get faster. Mm-hmm. And it's two things I'll say about that. Like, one, Matt Wilson said to me one time, he's like, a lot of it is you just get faster at your decision making. It's like, all right, I'm going to try this, and if that doesn't work, I'll do this, and it's going to work. But knowing that is going to take some experience. You know what I mean? A beginner is going to take that and say, well, I got to try these 7 things first, and so a lot of the speed just comes with time, and so that's something I would recommend, like, not sweating as much as people tend to sweat it. You'll get faster the more you do it.
So Kenny Wang says toward the color of the light is the most realistic, but a lot of the time that starts to look dull. For me, going more toward the color of the light is the only thing that I know. Have you ever done that a different way? Is that possible even?
I guess I don't quite understand the question.
So once you're going brighter, you're doing a hue shift with your colors. And I said toward the color of the light. Is that a rule, or is that something that you can play with? I don't know.
Is it always toward the color, like shifting toward the color of the light source? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yes. But like it depends on like, you know, that's one of those, like, that's a broad one. Like, yeah, I mean, generally speaking, yes. Like, you know, it's going to shift toward the light, but understanding how it shifts is huge, because, you know, you can shift. I probably should have opened this anyway, because I tend to, I don't have it. Hold on one second. Let me open up a color wheel that I never have too far away. This is based on James Gurney's color wheel from his. I mean, well, he popularized this, I guess. He didn't invent it. It's like 100-year-old system, but you know, whenever you are, let's say you have something that is red and it's over here. Well, if your light is blue, like it's going through here. And so you're going to get all these like reds and purples, and, you know, before it ever gets all the way to blue. And so when I say it shifts toward the lighting color, you know, it doesn't do this necessarily, or, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you can always, well, that's not true, I guess, technically. You can always go cooler or warmer, you know, on the path you're taking. But understanding that pathway is important, because if you're just saying like, well, you know, here's my base color and I'm just going to keep making it brighter, that means you're saying that the light source is perfectly white when you do that. That's why, like, it looks weird, because it almost never exists in the real world. Like every light source is tinted a little warm, a little cool, and so it starts looking very clinical and very, you know, sort of sanitized to me when you know, use white and black to color with, you know.
You know, I think that's exactly what Kenny was saying with the question. So it's a great question. I feel like I just learned a lot there, because I never think about that. And I've seen that color shift before. I've seen going through the color wheel, and I don't know. I don't pick up on things a lot of times first time. So
this is stuff that honestly, like, I would say like the first 7 years of my career, I had no idea about. Like, I've learned a ton just over the last couple of years, because I've been coloring a lot. I've been studying color a lot. And I've been very intentional about looking into the science of like visual, not even just color, but just like what draws an eye scientifically is fascinating. You know what I mean? Like, and it's all about differences. Like every single choice that I'm making on this at every single point is a comparison. You know what I mean? It's always, is it brighter than what's around it? Does it need to come forward? You know, in this case, you know, is it getting darker? Is it receding around the edge? You know, literally every brushstroke that I'm making, every brushstroke that David made when he drew this, is he's looking at this line and going, well, does it need to be thinner or thicker than that one? Does this need to be sharp? Does it need to be round? Like, and what's sharp and round depends on what's around it. You know, it's like, because you would say, you know, this is, you know, if I say this is, why can't I draw today? Like, this is a line that's sharp and that's a curved line. Well, then what is that? You know, it's like, it's all a comparison, you know? And so on this, there's sort of a gradient of visual importance here from top to bottom. You know, I'm starting at his head. We're going to concentrate most of the detail. Most of the contrast is going to be, you know, in that upper part of his body, you know, in the important areas on his costume. So like, yes, it always helps to know. And I told you guys, didn't I make this selection already? And then I started talking or something.
I think so.
Yeah.
If I hit undo enough, will it come back? That was a good selection. I just totally bailed on it. Oh well. Great selection there.
It was a lot too.
This one won't be as good. This one won't be as good.
Never is this.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry if I ramble. Like I nerd out about this stuff, and
well, that's why this is so good. And I don't know. Look, this is entertainment too, and it's important that we don't want to bore you guys. But what I really like is finding a way to actually understand something in a repeatable way.
Yeah.
And it's always fascinating for me. It's what makes this stuff fun. So it's really great to talk to somebody that has that kind of level of understanding of what you're doing. I learn a lot.
Well, I'm the same on your channel. Like I've been watching. I watched the last couple, and it's. I think we again, like a disclaimer myself when I say this, but like because I'm not 2% of the artists you are, but we construct figures. We learn from the same stuff. Like I that's one thing I noticed is like it. I mean, it was bizarre how closely it looked when you were sketching out a figure somewhere, and it was like that's exactly what I do. I wonder, like, it made me wonder, like, what all books you read or who you studied under. Like, that was one thing that fascinated me, though. Oh, I'm on the wrong way. Sorry. Yeah, I thought that was just, something you don't really see in the final work. Is the process in between. So
yeah.
So I was always thought that was cool.
And there are always so many different ways to approach something. So. I guess in some ways it doesn't matter. You find your own technique, but there are certainly easier and more efficient ways to work. And I've seen some artists work in ways that I thought, wow, I don't know how you get a page done. It's bananas what you're doing. It's crazy.
So Renaissance Girl asks a very good question. How did you get so good at using the lasso? Every time I use it for coloring, it takes me forever to select what I want exactly the way I want it. So you can like add and remove from the lasso, right?
Yes. Yeah. I might not be doing it a lot here just because the style I'm doing, but yeah, when you make a selection, I used to think that if you messed up, you had to start over when I first started, but yeah, hold down shift will add to it. Mm-hmm. So, and then if you hold down what is alt or option, will take away. And so once you learn that, I'm kind of fearless with the lasso at that point because I'm not worried about screwing up. Like I can always fix it. So, I'm actually curious myself if I'm hoping some of this softer stuff I did is gonna. I think it's working.
Yeah, it looks very good.
I'm so not confident today in what's happening here.
Well, I mean, it's really popping. I looked 3D already, so.
Yeah, and I think the softness underneath it.
Yeah.
Really I think it's doing what I wanted it to do.
Yeah, and the warm and the cool contrast that you were going for is definitely working.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about
because you can see like watch how weak this image becomes. The colors, not Dave's drawing. But there we go. Sorry. If I make this like a warm color, like I mean, it's cool. I mean, yeah, he looks awesome. It looks neat, but it's the distance across the color wheel. It's the contrast across is what makes this work. It's like, and it's really only from like here to here. It's not like I've got a super saturated blue and a super saturated orange. But when you're hopping right across gray, it's like there's bonus contrast through here. Because they're complements. Contrast in hues is measured in angles. You know what I mean? And so. Yellow and orange and red have less contrast than yellow and purple or whatever. And so anytime you're jumping back and forth across though, like it's very visually kind of cool usually.
We have a $10 super chat from Waiter Shoes. Thank you so much. He says, "This is great. I have no idea what you're doing most of the time being a traditional artist. I will rewatch this to figure it out on my Procreate. Thanks for doing this."
Well, I mean, a lot of these rules apply exactly one-to-one with traditional. You want those contrasting ideas. You want
it really is the same, yeah.
Values need to, you constantly want that contrast, and the same color theory doesn't change whether you're working digitally or traditionally.
Yeah, which is why, and you see the debate all the time, and I hear it less now, actually, which is nice. People thinking that something done digitally isn't as valid as something done traditionally. It's the same skills that you're using, and you have more editability for sure. But I don't care how much editability you have if you don't know what you're doing. It's like what is it? A million monkeys typing on a keyboard.
Right.
It's never going to be a good picture.
Right. Yeah, this when I first saw this, I was like, well, that's going to be an interesting, color theory stream, because I'm like, there's not going to be a lot of hues to choose from here. But then I got to digging into it, and I was like, well, that's actually kind of perfect for a beginner tutorial, or a beginner-ish tutorial, I guess we'll say, is because we're really only having to think about one. We can really just focus on value and not hue at all,
Mhm.
So, but yeah, and even what I'm doing here, like I don't really ever get married to anything. Like at any point, I might look at that and go, I'm going to go back and change that or whatever. Also, something else, little quick pro tip. I had someone pretty regularly have somebody ask me about, like, how do you get that nice gradient in the cut and grad, that the gradient part of the cut and grad style, by the way, is what they call kind of what this is, where you're cutting in with the lasso, and then gradient is used to use gradients in Photoshop. And but I'll get the question of, how do you get the gradient? It's like my edges always seem too sharp. Well, if you'll notice, I'm going to not hide my selection this time. I'm really only using like half the brush, like half the brush is outside of the selection, so I'm only getting that edge. I know that might seem very obvious to some people, but if you try to cut like, right down the center, well, obviously you're not going to get, that nice little fade. And with his arm, being lit by that side, that helps to, all I'm really thinking of, I'm not thinking about his arm. I'm thinking about this cylinder right here. That's what all of this is for me. It's like, here's a cylinder, here's a box, there's a sphere, and that makes it a lot easier to digest than, oh my God, I've got to color a forearm. It's like,
yeah, and I think also
it's a cylinder with extra steps.
I think also the fact that you're sorry, Dave.
No, go ahead. Then I'll.
Basically the quote unquote underpainting you did also adds to that softness, together with the hard shapes. Kind of what David and I have been doing with the airbrush is.
Yeah, it actually really is.
Yeah,
it's probably very similar. Yeah, it's a similar action. Yeah.
My favorite comment of the night so far: in digital, there are no happy little mistakes that have to become a happy little tree. That was funny.
Exactly. I want to thank, by the way, just I've noticed a couple of people that usually watch my streaming here tonight, so I just wanted to say thank y'all for showing up, and I know a lot of your regular viewers too, just from the chat. I see them around, so it's nice for everybody to come out today and
yeah, absolutely. And now I'm
watch this.
I'm calling out a lot of you guys that I recognize from streams all the time, and thank you so much for coming. And yeah, to all of you guys that I don't know as well that watch Kurt all the time, thank you so much for coming by the channel and watching us watch Kurt color this picture.
So Kurt, it looks so you're on a drawing monitor, right?
Yes, I'm on a Cintiq 16. I think. Yeah, it says it's a Wacom Cintiq 16 Pro. Technically, I think is the name of it.
Renaissance Girl says, "Why is Clip Studio Paint better for making comics?" I would say that we were talking about that quite a bit at the beginning of this, but you're probably better at saying.
I'm extremely used to answering that question. Clip is. Let me get under the lines. No, the Clip I think is better for coloring in a lot of ways than Photoshop. The reference layers, which I'm not really using a lot of. Well, I am. The reference layers, like I'm not worried about going outside the lines because I can just hit the wand and it's going to intersect that selection with the flats down here, and so there's little things like that Photoshop just doesn't have. And that to me is like a massive time saver. Just having those reference layers. I was telling Dave earlier, literally the only thing that I do in Photoshop is like look at my final like prints. Like I run it through there. I check it in CMYK, to make sure that it's doing what I expected it to do. I normally don't see a big crazy shift or anything because I'm used to, I know what I want out of. I know what I want out of the colors I'm choosing. But
what do you do if you do get a big shift that you didn't expect? How do you fix that?
Good question. What I try to do usually is honestly, like most of the time, like slightly warming, slightly cooling will have like a massive effect. It's like this purple won't, but this 2% different purple will. Like, but a lot of times, especially if you need to do a big shift over like a bunch of different colors, again, like I'll try overlay layers or adjustment layers or things to sort of, what if it's a little, sometimes even going darker, going a little bit brighter, like small shifts sometimes will make huge changes in the CMYK gamut because it's sort of kind of jumping around. But it's not I don't know if it's an exact science or not really. It's just, it's a lot of eyeballing it for me. And then it's pretty rare that I end up like, oh my God, I really screwed that up. Like, there was one I posted on my Discord not too long ago, which is a perfect example of what we're talking about. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I think it was under, let's see. Sorry, all this stuff. Comic making. There we go. Open original copy. So this is from The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos. RGB on the left and CMYK on the right. I love that pink so much, and I was like, dang. So I actually went back. I kind of had to retool that whole panel a little bit. Like I shifted it away from that purple, but it's like I tested it and I kind of knew, I was like, man, this isn't going to work very well. And yeah, I was disappointed when I dumped it in Photoshop and saw that.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It's like, yeah, if it was digital only or something, like, yeah, maybe, but anyway, but yeah, you'll notice too, like I'll start to like get a little more detailed around, again, things like hands and well, anywhere Dave put more detail in the drawing pretty much is where I'm going to put more detail. And a lot of this stuff, like I'm doing a lot of like little jagged things in this, and it honestly to me can look a little weird up close, but it's when you back off of it I think it tends to work a little better. But my theory was that soft edge would kind of act as like kind of the thickness of the material, almost like a little bit of color shift, before it gets into the shadow, Anyway, that was the intention. Anyway.
Yeah, it's really neat to see this transform so much.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's right now 9:58, so I think that's 10:58 your time for both of you guys. But we've been doing this for not quite an hour, and
yeah,
it's rolling. I mean, look at it.
That's great.
I'm glad y'all are digging it. I like it. My flatter was one of my flatters. I sent this over, and he says, "Is this a real Dave Finch?" So this is a real Dave Finch. So yeah, you got my flatters all excited.
Wow, that's great.
I know you love compliments.
Yeah, thanks.
I can always tell in your stream, it's like, oh, just talk about something else, please. I know what you mean. I'm kind of that way.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I really do. I put so much work into my artwork, and I want people to like it. And then when people say they like it, I'm like, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's like, why'd you tell me that? Now now I've got to live up to your expectations.
That's right. Yeah, I want it. But
my expectations are high enough. Thank you.
So what I'm also really enjoying here is and this, I guess, is a trap that people can fall into, is you haven't used a lot of different brushes. Your setup is really simple, few layers, few brushes, and the wand. And I mean, look at this. It's incredible.
It's the most common, again, like a super common question is like, oh, what brush is it? Like,
Right.
that's another thing that happens all the time. And brushes are like, it's cool to have like a handful of, interesting brushes if you need like, a rougher texture or something sometime. Like, I mean, I honestly, like this huge list of brushes here. Like, I mean, this is, actually a soft airbrush. That's that kind of painty brush I've been using. That's a pencil. That's a textury brush. That's like, honestly, like 99.9% of my work is just that. What I'm intending to do on this one, again, to sort of lean into all of Dave's just, I don't, that bite in the inks, man. I don't even, what do you call that? Like that thing you do?
Well,
That thing, that just that angularness, and I don't know what you guys call that. That the character of the lines that you use. Like, I want to make sure that
this is all
that
Jimmy
I
Reyes
get
with his
some of
line,
that.
and I love working with Jimmy because he's great at doing that. For me, I definitely like more of an angular. Joe Weems was the first inker that I worked with that really did that, and I loved what he did, and it was a big influence on my art, and it has been ever since. And he had a name for it, which I can't remember. Maybe
Right.
before you finish with this, hopefully I'll remember. But we actually got a question that I thought was kind of a good one. It is. Oh, right, here we go. Will Excel asks, why not just color in CMYK mode? Wouldn't that automatically narrow your color selections?
It would. For me personally, there are some of the more technical, like, trickery stuff that I use every now and then, of like, like levels adjustments, or something works differently, like levels or color balance. Or there's a handful of adjustment layers that aren't available in CMYK. The vibrance adjustment layer is not available in CMYK. I like it better than just straight up, like, if you want to increase the saturation on something just across the board, vibrance a lot of times is better because it does it on a bit of a curve. Like, it's like the most saturated stuff gets more saturated, but the less saturated it is, the less it affects it. You know what I mean? There's a bit of, it's like a whatever they call it, like a curve to it. So with that, I like, there's certain color modes that don't work in it either that I like. So but no, there are some people that do. There are a lot of people that do do work in CMYK. It's just a preference, basically. And I'm trying to get, like, his I'm pointing in the air as if you guys can see that. That helps.
I do that too.
But I'm trying to get this, make sure this reads, I'm exaggerating it here, but, like, you got the curve of his arm, and then it comes in, then his chest kind of comes back out a little bit. And that's why you're seeing me sort of, again, focusing the sharpness through here and, like, kind of letting that fade. And then, yeah, basically the further I get away from his head, the less I'm going to be spending on this, less time I'm going to be spending on it. That's what I'm trying to say.
And also, it doesn't get quite as light, I would think, right?
At what part? Whoops.
The further away you get from the head.
Oh yeah.
There's not as much contrast, not as much detail, and as much contrast.
Right. But yeah, this part of it, to me, like, I always find it kind of tough to discuss, because this is like the brainless part of coloring to me. Like, I can turn my head off and do this part most of the time, because I've got an idea of, this is a relatively simple cover, from a storytelling standpoint. It's not like I've got to make sure that Moon Knight, the focus is, he's right there. So that is cool, because it just means I can, go crazy on this. And really detail it a ton because it's just one guy.
So yeah, that's why I like a solo book instead of a team book. Team books are really
I can't imagine like a team book would be hard to do. Tamara Von Villain showed me one time. I thought it was so cool. She had like her little paper doll set up of like, you know, eye colors and skin colors and costume colors. She'd basically made herself a little, you know, kind of, you know, guide for, it was like Avengers or something, you know, that had like a ton of characters and it's like, yeah, you know, eye colors and hair colors and all that stuff. And yeah, it's a lot. It can be a lot.
Yeah, and then you'll have a writer, and I've had this happen. They'll write a story and they want some tiny little detail change in the costume of one of the characters to reflect something that happened in some other and there's no way to remember that. Like 3 pages in, I've forgotten and it's just gone.
Right.
It's too much.
Yeah, this is the part where I always kind of run out of things to discuss. Or at least I do. But yeah, fire away any questions you guys have or whatever. This is one of those, like, I think with this, what I'm intending to do, I think this will come together very quickly right at the end. That's my goal anyway. How long are we doing this, by the way? I didn't even ask. Like, was it like 2 hours or so, or 3 hours, or what are we shooting for here? We can color this as much as you want to color it.
You got 10 minutes. Go.
No.
Yeah, this is the time that we need. I don't have a deadline. Like, as fast as it's going to, I wouldn't imagine we would go past.
Yeah, no, we should.
Midnight, and that's 1 o'clock for you, so that might be a little late even. So.
No, I'm good. I usually I stay up late and get a lot of work done late.
Do you pay for that? It's because that's exactly what I do, and I pay for it. Every 4 or 5 days, I just have a day where I get nothing done. It's just a wreck because of that. So
I don't know. I mean, sometimes, yeah. I mean, but I work better in the evenings. Like I tend to get, I don't know, I feel clearer or something.
Yep.
I'm definitely like a night owl by nature.
Yeah, I am. Now, you wake up when you wake up, or do you have a set?
It's varied over the years. Right now, I really don't have much of a schedule. I kind of color when I feel like it, and sometimes that's, you know, first thing in the morning. You know, sometimes that's the afternoon. Sometimes it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, it just kind of depends. But yeah, I wish I had more of a. What do I want to do? I'm trying to like figure out the shape. I don't want you to read this as one big shape here.
Mm-hmm.
Am I trying to do that? Sorry, trying to get. And so I think I'm actually gonna knock this down.
So Shirley Pledger has a good question. Monitor calibration, is it important? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I do.
The nice thing about an iPad in general with Procreate, you don't really have to worry about that, but for like a drawing monitor, absolutely.
Yeah, like I've got this, you know, monitor I'm drawing on, and then I've got you know, monitor up here I'm looking at, and they're very different if they're not equally, you know, if they're not both calibrated with the same software. And so what I try to do is, you know, every 6 months, every year, whenever I can get around to it, usually something catastrophic is happening to the computer and you end up having to do something anyway every couple of months, right? But no, yeah, but I run mine every couple of months or so.
What software do you use to calibrate the color?
I use Spider something or other. Spider 5 Pro, or hold on, here it is. This is one of these. Spider 5 by Data Color. Yeah, it's a hardware thing. Like this hangs on the back and it hangs over the monitor like this, and then this is flush with the screen, this sensor, and It does like a little rave light show for you, and calibrates all the colors for me.
Curious
Wow.
business.
Yeah, there's like a couple of those, like from cheap to way too much. So like the cheap ones are cool, like they work fine. But
Hey, David, Eric Grove, and Kurt. This would be an awesome setup for future streams. Dave Pencil, Jimmy Inks, and Kurt Colors, and every so often stream hat trick. Yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun.
I'm 100% down for that, obviously. So
now I feel a little guilty saying, "Hey, you know, come on my channel," because then I get the whole benefit of it being on my channel. So you know, we could ship it around here. You know, do it on your channel, do it on.
That would be awesome, dude. That would be really fun. Why can't I? Wrong thing. Never mind. Yeah, it's like it never fails. I'm like, why is this software doing precisely what I asked it to do? That's usually what happens. I'm like, I'm on the wrong layer. I'm doing something stupid. All right, so you know what? I'm gonna let's pause on him for a second. I don't want to get too far on him and then realize like, oh, now I've got to spend half an hour to detail the moon or the water or whatever. So, what do we want to do with the water? Let's see. What do I want to do with the water? There's just enough of an angle. Where's the horizon? These stars get pretty far down here.
They do. they go right to the water. And
he is standing on the 87th floor of a pool, guys.
So that's infinity pool.
Yeah. Now that is a place where you might want to.
I might black out some of these stars.
There you go. Yeah.
Apologies to Mr. Reyes, but no, I just thought about that. I saw how far down they went.
Hey, well, it never occurred to me either.
I mean, that's one of those things that I would do, like, and then later on, like, why did I do that? It's like stars, they go all the way down, right?
We have a couple of really good questions that kind of came in really quickly. So
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. All right. So Renaissance Girl asks how big our comic pages usually. They are 11 by 17 with a 10 by 15-inch image area. So that's standard. And so that one I got, Kurt. That one.
Awesome.
And Story by Osmosis asks, what directions do you give a flat artist to break up the levels or components of the page?
Good question. What I did with this one, I've got a regular. This is going to get really ugly all of a sudden. Sorry, guys, but I just asked them. I said, look, I do realize Moon Knight's all one color, but make sure you break up all of anything that there's an edge on. You know, it's like this is obviously a different set of fabric than what's on his bicep. You know, this ends here, this ends here. You know, you can see all those little delineations. So, what that does for me is because and you could look at this and say, well, why would you want to do that? It's all one color. Well, for example, let me do this real quick while I'm thinking about it. There, but let's say that my brain just emptied. What was I about to say?
You were talking about different selections and why.
Different selections. Sorry, it's like that little thing threw me totally off guard. But let's say that I want to do like a big soft effect, like on these two bands. You know what I mean? So it's like if I didn't have that selection, you know, I'd have to first, you know, select that and then get a brush and then do whatever. But with this, I can just grab that selection and I know that I can do what I need to do and then move on. You know, so it's really, really fast. It's just a fast way to break up all that stuff. Everything is different. Again, like there's a lot of stuff I'm telling y'all that like it works on this page, but it might not work on a different page. But I'm always trying to, you know, I don't want to have my flatter doing stuff that I know for a fact I'm not going to separate. So there's some stuff I'll give them some notes of like, look, all that grass, make it all whatever, you know, because you know it really does depend, honestly, a lot of times on. Well, every time is the story, you know, it's what does the story call for, you know, and if something is like, I always want like plane separated, you know, foreground, middle ground, background. Like if there's grass in the foreground and the middle ground and the background, it's like, I want it all three. I want three different colors because I know that's going to end up being different colors in the final product. You know, but I've been working with the same flatters for a long time. And so I've got like, you know, but they kind of know what I want, and it's usually not a big deal. All right. I said I was going to get on this water, and then I got on something else. So let's see. I don't want to do a ton of stuff on this, but I'm thinking like I would love to get a little bit of that moon reflection down in there, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this part especially, I would have no idea what to do. I would be lost trying to.
Well, my what I'm thinking about doing, let's just see, is again like think of it as I'm following Dave's intent. You know, it's like he's got some detailed little ripples in here, but they get progressively less detailed the further they get away from the leg. You know what I mean? And so I want to try to, maybe lean into that a little bit. And out here it can get a little rougher, and as we get closer, so maybe some of this stuff, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what it looks like when I'm done with it. But again, like, and the other thing too, like if we were like doing this for Marvel, and I had like a couple days, I would spend a little more time on even the selections I'm doing. I mean, I work pretty fast anyway, just kind of in general. But yeah, there's we were talking about this too. This is a bit of a performance art also, of like making it work as a coherent, maybe a coherent lesson or a tutorial or something, or learn something. And
yeah, and quickly enough, I feel that way every Monday night draw. I'm like, okay, here we go. And what can I get in with the time that I have? And I have 2 hours before Meredith, my wife, falls apart. So,
right.
I've gotten to the point where I can draw like so many different kinds of characters, and it hits 2 hours. Getting better at it.
There you go. And you'll also notice like I'm zooming further and further out the more I. Oops, get something there. I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time on this, but I do want to get something down here before I got like all the way to the end, and then like, why didn't I do this earlier? Is this all in one layer? Yeah, I'm gonna do this back on. I'm just gonna make another layer for this because I'm not. I don't really want it to do much, but I'm wondering like. I'm wondering if we can do like a, something like that. Like, does that
actually looks good?
Maybe work. Yeah, I'll clean that up. We'll clean that up later. But we got something down there now. And this is I love this moon. This is the 90th moon, and that is where my brain lives, David. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, every once in a while I think, hey, maybe I should get with the times, right?
No, dude, don't do it.
Love the 90s. It's what made me want to get into comics. I had no interest before I saw Mark Silvestri and Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane.
Yeah, it was the X-Men cartoon that turned it on for me. And like it wasn't like comic shops were around. You buy them in grocery stores and whatever, and that was about it. I'm going to color these lines, by the way. Remind me to get back to comics at some point. But what I did is I just selected the lines themselves, and I didn't want to grab the flats because you might get a little bit of that black edge too. Because if we look at the flats layer, maybe not. The edge. Anyway, a lot of times, like just grabbing the flats, you'll get a little bit of weirdness or something along the edge. So I like to just get my color holds. Now, because this inks layer is on a transparent layer, I'm just going to put a clipping mask on this, and you can fill it with a color, and that's it. I don't know if that's the right color yet or whatever, but it's a color.
That was so easy.
Yeah.
Another thing that is really, really hard.
What's that?
That's a really hard thing to do.
It's so tough in Photoshop. It's so tough to do. Like you have to make sure it's like 12 steps to get the transparency on there, and then after that, it's easy. You use clipping mask or whatever. But yeah, I love the clipping mask for that because like what I can do with this is I can go back in here now and like edit that selection at any time because it's, you know, it's on its own layer. If I want to do like, let's say I want to keep this selection, you know, in case I want to shift that color around, well, I can make a new layer, clip that, and, you know, and then do other things, you know, on top of that even, you know. And so, you know, there's a lot of things you can do to, you know, make it easier for yourself.
Yeah, going back to what you said about contrast, what it's done there is really separate the moon from moonlight doing the color hold there.
Yeah, and I don't know about what colors. I hadn't quite figured out this moonlight just yet, but I wanted to get something in there. I'm really we never really see a red moon with him, and I honestly think that might look cool. But
well, we also just got this comment right here from Henry.
Dave wanted a blood moon. Don't make him mad.
So, you know, there you go.
There you go. I mean, we would have. Let's see. What did I do that? Now too many layers here. I'll have to figure that out. That though. Let's leave that alone for now. I'll come back to it. Let's see. What happened to my? Did I delete? What happened to my water? Oh, there's the water. The water changed. Okay, I see what I did. That was me. Okay.
So you can get so much out of working on the computer, but then it's all another, and it's so great that it's on other layers. But yeah, I've been there trying to figure out what layer I put what on, and
yeah, I'm just softening this up with a smudge tool a little bit around the edge.
Yeah, that.
I'll clean that up a little bit more later.
That warm and cool in the water looks really cool, really nice.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't know if I'd like all those colors just yet, but we'll get there. Now, what I'm going to do now, and I think, and this is what to me is the most fun part, is to start adding like specular values and the brightest values, because it's a great way to kind of lead the eye where you want it to go, and really bring out certain parts. You know, and again, it's not a it doesn't seem like a lot of work, but it does a lot. It does a lot to get another layer of detail in here. And I think I'm going to use this brush, which is actually a pencil from Ron Chan. It's got a great like it'll go really thin, and then you can lay it on its side. It's a really, really nice brush, and I've started using it lately. You know what? Let me see what's going on with my layers here for a second. I've got all of this can be on. What is that? Oh, that's I'm just going to label this background. I have a tendency of just like adding layers and then like figuring out later, like it's probably a confidence thing where it's like, let me do it on a new layer just in case. But I am going to make a new layer, and this is in hard light mode because I just like the way that it blends. I don't want to get it all the way to white. I want to leave myself a little bit of wiggle room there. And I think I can probably I'll just get going. I don't really think I'll need selections or anything for this.
While you're getting into that, I just want to mention again, because we're, I think, more than halfway through.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Kurt has a website. I've got the link in the description. You can find, and actually, Russix just posted. It's learncometcolor.com courses, and if you type in coupon Finch, it's just FINCH. You can get 50% off, and that's not 5, it's 50% off, which is a lot. So, and yeah, a lot of great information. I know, Eric, you've taken his course.
Yeah, there's a few that I've done, and they're all fantastic. Yeah.
So, appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Like, myself from 2003 is geeking out about about Dave telling people about my stuff. Thanks so much, man. That's what makes my channel run. Honestly, it's not the ad revenue.
Yes.
You know, I can get double pepperoni with my ad revenue, but yeah, it honestly is what makes my channel go. So if you're interested in helping me out with that, that would be awesome. And I'm also using this stage to I'm kind of following the contours of, of the fabric. That is helping to, kind of sell that texture that we're trying to get out on here.
Yeah.
And you'll see that again, I'm not doing this everywhere. I'm being strategic with where this is going. Bringing out, I want to get the curve of this cape coming out at us, get that to show up. And again, it looks, one thing that's really tough, I think, for a lot of beginners to kind of wrap their head around is the idea of scale, because you see this and you're like, oh, well, this looks kind of crappy, but not when you do this. It doesn't, it's remember that the audience isn't going to see it at 600 level zoom, so zooming up too much is generally a common problem. But
then you go to a convention and they make it the size of the ceiling, all the way up,
right? I had one of those one time. I had a glitter bomb. There was a big glitter bomb display on the image booth, and I was so happy about that because it wasn't even a cover that I did. I didn't get to do the covers for it, but I was like, I'm on a billboard,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a big moment.
Mr. I'm going to the Doctor Strange premiere. I heard, by the way.
Yep. Yeah. That was nice.
Yeah. Who screwed up there? Do you know? No, I'm kidding. I heard what you said about it last week.
Yeah,
or whatever that was. It's don't mention it to anybody. Bring it up after it's over.
That's right.
How did I get to do this?
I swear I got up to that because they've got a big desk and they've got all these envelopes, and so you get your ticket at the will call, and I thought, okay, please have a ticket there. I don't know.
Has it happened already, or is it a?
Yeah, it was
to come.
It was a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay, all right. Maybe that video was older than I realized.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a great movie. So we have a super chat from Jim Klein. Thank you very much. $20. I really appreciate it. He says, Kurt, any tips for flattening faster other than to hire a flatter? It's easily the longest part of the process for me, and I treated myself to a drawing pen monitor, and it's really sped up the process, but I'd like to get faster.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, I'm legally obligated to tell you that I have a video that explains this. But what I like to do when I'm flatting is, let's say that I've got, let me break this up real quick.
I'll see if I can find that video, Kurt.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm just going to put some colors.
I think that one's in the Wayback Machine. Probably
so. But let's say that this is, I don't know, this is a thing that I need to flat. What I always start with the entire object first, so go around the entire selection. I don't really have this set up for that. Flat that, and then just break it down smaller and smaller and smaller, so as you on this, I would have started with the moon and moon night and the water, that gets my big shapes in there. It creates that layer, and then once you're working within the within that object, you just break it all down again, and then when you get all those objects broken down, if there's more, then go in and break the rest of them. But that way you're not just hopping all over the place trying to trying to make that work.
Makes a lot of sense. Hopefully that's helpful. We have another super chat from Jim Klein again for $5, and he says, also, I highly recommend Kurt's courses. I've picked up tons of them over the years, and they're all fantastic. So yeah, thank you.
Very kind of y'all. Thank you very much.
So that flattening video is 6 years ago.
Still applies.
Yep.
This stuff is evergreen. It's like everything else.
And SES Powerlifting is here. Great to see you. He has a $5.
Oh, good to see you, man. Yeah, he pops in my channel too. Yeah, we have a few cross viewers. I noticed that come to both. So
and there's
very cool
of SES. I never make these bigger. It's great for me to put these on the screen, and that's a lot of weight that he's picking up there. I don't know how much that is, but it's a lot. Anyway, it says great work by all in this piece. Thank you very much. Yeah, we really went through the gamut with this one.
Why is that doing that? Oh, I did something on the wrong layer. There it is. Copy. Here's how you fix this. Go back to your lights, and actually, what is on that layer? Let's see. Anything on that layer?
This is a problem of we're distracting you with a million questions while you're doing this.
No, it's fine. It'll take me just a quick second here. Let's copy that, and then with Control V. Is that gonna work?
Usually, yeah. It's like pretty cross-platform.
I'm so confused. Let's see. No. There we go. I'm sorry. Give me a second here. I can probably merge.
Yeah, just do like a merge down if it's over.
What? Yeah, what did I do here? I really did something funny. That layer, that's not it. That's not it. I'm a pro, guys. Professional. I don't understand why that's changing color. I'm just doing something funny. Anyway, I'm just going to make a new layer on top and hide all the rest of this stuff. Usually if I'm like, all right, I'm not going to mess with this anymore, stick it in a folder. I don't have to look at it. Actually, I do need a color. All right, is this going to color now? Yay. All right. Coloring again. Crisis averted.
And you know what? You were talking about speed from experience. That right there, you had a problem that could frustrate you for ages trying to figure out what happened.
It probably would have a long time ago.
What, 2 minutes? Not even to.
Yeah. But what do you think of this, Dave, so far? Like I know you usually you don't, if you're not saying anything, you're happy. Is that how it works?
Well, truth be told, I'm generally speaking reluctant to complain.
Yeah.
I think it looks great. So I'm not saying anything because I'm not wanting to complain. That's for sure. I think it's looking really, really good. And I love every layer. I like the first layer just with the soft, warm and cool kind of playing out. And then the hard lines I thought look great. And yeah, I love seeing the more textured kind of layer that's going on top. And it is like a coarse, I don't know, burlap, whatever kind of a
yeah, it's got some grit to it, And again, like this seems like a lot because but if you think about the fact that like the further I get down on this, it's not going to be quite as detailed, and in the shadow areas, like I'm really just kind of throwing this around and like basically like think about it in terms of like the peaks of all the little folds in here. You know what I mean? Like you've got a ton of detail in here, a ton of detail in the line work. That's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. There's all this texture and all. Jimmy, I hadn't called him out yet, I don't guess, on this, but yeah, Jimmy did a killer job on this. So, but that allows me to just sort of, you throw a few things around. It's like I didn't do half as much on that shoulder as I did that shoulder. Even across his body, there's a little bit of difference there. So,
yeah, that's kind of the Frazetta secret, among being a genius. But
right,
yeah, you'd have one little section that's incredibly detailed, and everything else would, Or who's the Renaissance artist?
Rembrandt.
Thank you. Yeah, my favorite
Yep.
one. Of course, I can't remember.
That's the example that I brought up like just a few streams ago. I think we were talking about. I'll show everybody what we're talking about here real quick. Well, everybody knows Rembrandt's famous painter. But if you'll notice on any of his paintings are awesome. But like on this guy here, look at this box relative to this box. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing in here. Okay, effectively, it's almost a flat brown. Same part of his face. Obviously, his face would have the same amount of detail on both sides. What's the difference? The lighting's the difference. He's using this bright reflective light to get all these little wrinkles and shadow textures in here, and the other side is it's shadow. It's not like it's the same amount of detail but darker. There's less stuff. There's less information. You could also flip this and say, let's expose the drawing for the shadow side. You could like blow out the highlights and put details in the shadow side. That's another way I like to think about it is, in any case, it's like if you've got like say an explosion or something, it's like you might have a super bright, intense light on from one side that blows out all the detail, but then the shadow's got a little bit of detail in it. So that's something else I try to,
like an over.
I looked up at the chat for a second and just saw like 8 red moons. 8 red moons comments. So maybe we'll end up with a red moon.
Well,
but yeah, I'm treating all of this little stuff that I'm doing right now as, again, it's like if this was a big cylinder, like I'm not thinking about this is a million bandages. Like I'm thinking, all right, this cylinder wraps around, and actually I've probably got a little bit too much detail maybe going on around to the right. So like I'll put a mask on that layer and then like get a soft brush and I can like kind of soften that edge a little bit.
And that is very much like working with an airbrush.
Yeah. And I like that actually. And so maybe a little bit more of that over here. Yeah. It's coming together pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure I'm on the right.
So we're getting a couple of comments also pointing out that the moon is in fact made of cheese. So
Gotcha. I want to pull up a reference real quick. Sorry. I want to see Moon Knight Disney. You have to say what you're looking for now. You used to just be able to look up Moon Knight, and now you have to look up Moon Knight Disney Plus.
Yep.
We've advanced a long time in my life.
Whenever a character ends up in a movie or anything, you can't just look up the character name anymore.
Yep.
You have to specify.
Yep. All right. Where was I? Oh, and I think let's see. Let's do that. So again, this is meant to be, it's like a bronzish something. I don't know. Something or other.
I would definitely get both peaks on his, like both tips.
Oh, I didn't, did I?
Yeah,
I see that now. Yep, you would definitely want that. And this is like a textury brush, so you really can't tell much with it right now, but just a little dirty,
That's good.
Yep.
And again, like I think it's one of those things where like I think less is more. Some real sharp what do you call it? Like specular type highlights to kind of set it off on the edges.
Yeah, so you're not just straight up coloring something. You're thinking texture. You're thinking material.
Yeah, and shape. There's a lot of, like, I'm not just putting light on the left side of them. You know what I mean? Like there's, and I'm obviously, I know you know this. I'm just kind of speaking for everybody else, but I'm also thinking in terms of, what are pleasing shapes that work with this line art. So I'm thinking, and what I mean when I say shapes, I'm talking like color shapes. Um, Looking at his head, you've got about 2/3 of it in light. Like I'm thinking usually in thirds, a third or 2/3 or whatever. So I'm wanting to draw that part out a little bit more. Instead of cutting him right down the middle or something, or like the fact that this shoulder is a little bit brighter and more distinct than this one. To get just a slight, you know, perspective, I guess is really what it is. Like this shape on his chest. I'm wanting these shapes to sort of all kind of point in. I mean, it's already doing that in the art. It's pointing right to that. And so I'm creating little, shapes within those shapes to help, hopefully bring that out. It's a tough thing to try to describe on the fly, but yeah, it's a lot of get the right brush again.
Toby asks, how long will the Code Finch last?
I'll probably just like never delete it, honestly. But no, I mean today only. You have to act now. No, I'm kidding. It'll probably be up for a while. I wouldn't. I very rarely forget to like remember to turn off my codes. Yeah. So if you're watching this in like 2014 on YouTube, or no, 2014 in 2027 on YouTube right now, then yeah, it probably still works.
Probably still works. Yeah. It's like my Xbox Live membership. I just saw an email. It got renewed, and I haven't played Xbox in years.
I put like 200 hours into Cyberpunk over the course of a couple of months. That was really fun. I hadn't played much else lately.
I try to take, well, not every day, but if I can, I try to take like just a little bit of time. An hour before dinner, I come up, sit down, play my video game. That's my time.
Oh, by the way, I absolutely loved your video on capes. By the way, you guys should all, if you want to know how to draw a cape like Dave, go watch that video. That some of that stuff, that trick you did at the very beginning, where you just do the squiggly line shape, it's one of like, it's just so bonehead simple. It's beautiful, like like I mean that with all love and respect, but it's such one of those killer tricks that looks so much better than the effort that it takes. I love tricks like that.
Yeah. Now I have to say, interest of full disclosure, I learned that from another artist years and years ago, and I've also seen it online. It's a commonly known technique, but that's how it is with all this stuff. It's there's not too much out there that hasn't already been discovered by somebody else.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, for any of you that watch Monday Night Draw, I've got my camera sorted out, so
nice.
In good shape.
Did you find out what was wrong?
No. What I'm going to do is the camera that's pointing at me right now. Going to the store tomorrow. What day is it? Thursday. In 2 days, I'm going to get an arm. I'm using that camera to shoot my art. And then the crappy, webcam, I'm just going to point at me. It's the most obvious solution. I've got everything, the whole setup. So, yeah. So we should be good for Monday. No more coming in and out of focus. And
yeah, I've got a Logitech C920. That thing has served me so well. It's in such an old webcam, but can't beat them.
Oh, it's not even fair, though. You don't have to point anything. See, since you're working on the screen.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It's the pointing at the screen that causes all the problems. It's a nightmare. So one thing about working on on paper, it's tough to film.
Yeah. You've got a nice setup though. Like you can see what you're doing, and I mean it's clear. I mean it's clear. It's completely functional and works. Like that's all it really needs to be.
Yeah,
Like,
I figure.
in my opinion.
I started having whenever it's live. When I'm just recording, it seems fine. When it's live, it's giving me a lot of trouble, and I just can't figure it out. So Eric has got a setup that's much more. You can see it behind him actually. See the arm with the camera there. So
I was in IT before I went to nursing school, before I became a comic book artist. I was in IT for a long time, and it has helped tremendously in this job of like the things I see people panicking about, online. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that I know how to fix that. I realize what that sounds like, but I'm like, how do people do it that don't know? Like, I don't. How do you do anything without computer knowledge these days? I have no idea.
Video. That's how I do it.
So what I
sorry. I was just going to say quickly, Luke Forwardson says, Dave, Tulsa, what happened? I needed to renew my visa, and it wasn't ready. It took a little bit longer than I was hoping it did, and I've got it now, and I'm good, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to Tulsa. So that is what happened. I wasn't sick, but I could not go.
And where are you based again?
Canada. And so I can go to the States without a visa. It's fine. But if I'm making money, I don't like lying, I don't like going to the border and saying, oh no, I'm not, I can't do it. I just get heartburn thinking about it. So I just got.
I hear that. I didn't do a ton of shows until I've never done a ton of shows. Colorists, we don't get invited too often, but the few that I've been to, though, I've had a blast. I'm going to be at Memphis. Everybody's in from Memphis around here, but Memphis is having a con in September, June, July. I don't know when it is. I can't remember. Sometime, but I'm looking forward to doing. I haven't done a show in a long time.
Yeah, all of us. It's been. I've done 2 just over the last year, but I used to do 10 a year. That's really why I started YouTube.
That's a lot. That's a lot of shows.
It is. It's a lot. So now,
especially if you're introverted at all.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm both. I am really introverted, but I also really like people, and I like the. As much as I don't like compliments, I like the affirmation. So there you go.
Yeah, well, it's nice. It's so rare in this industry to like talk to people that have any clue what's going on. Like normal people don't understand this job, and so it's so. You know what I mean when I say normal people, by the way.
Yeah.
No one think too much into that. But they're like, just the other day, this was so good, and this happens all the time. But we're having my wife's birthday was last week, and we had a little shindig, and we had some people over, and someone asked like, oh, well, what do you do? And I wasn't really paying attention. It was someone else across the room, and all of a sudden I just hear like a bunch of cackling, and my wife said, "Did you hear that?" I said, "No." She asked what you did for a living, and she said, "Well, he colors comics." She said, "I love coloring." Like,
yeah, it's tough.
I just lost my right ear. Hold on. There we go. But yeah, she's like, "I love coloring." And it's like, hold on. I'm going to get that one issue of Harley Quinn that I milk and show her what I've, this is what I do, But it was hilarious. Like I've just learned to deal with those questions of like, they still make comic books. They still make those. Like, I know I'm preaching to the choir right here, but for anybody else, normies don't get it. Exactly. Pablo's got it. Am I still in Mississippi? I just noticed that. Yes. Yeah. I'm at Long Beach, Mississippi, the other Long Beach. It's always funny. People ask, where are you from? Long Beach. Oh, Mississippi. Oh, you have a beach? We do have a tiny, tiny beach. A little strip at the very bottom. I'm bringing out these forms a little bit more on this side.
Really, really coming together.
Mm-hmm. Much more textural, and it's a lot different than what I thought it was going to be when it was starting. You know, it's and I liked it all the way along, but it.
I'll take it. I'll take that. I will take that compliment. No, I wanted. I was looking at just the amount of detail. I don't know that I've ever colored anything like truly in like that image sort of, you know, that style you do like that. And especially with like the, you know, it's like Scott Williams-ish inks, you know, like I don't know that I've ever colored anything like this. I know not professionally, and I'm trying to even think for fun. Like, you know, I don't know. And so I was a little nervous about this, about doing this much texture, because I was looking at like some of your work for some other guys, you know, and seeing how other people have treated it, you know, and I was like, well, it all looks cool, but I'm like, but that's not me. I don't do that particular thing. I don't think very often, or not that I have anything against that style or whatever, but it just, I wanted to do something that felt that got just how much detail there was in this costume. That's one thing that just kind of blew my mind, is just how incredibly detailed it was. So it's like, if I did the whole thing with like a lasso, I don't know if that would capture this exactly the way that this does.
Yeah.
If that sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but
no, I agree. It gives it and you went soft, and then you went lasso, and now you're doing something that's more of a like a painterly texture. It's not painterly; it's more
right.
painterly, but you know, yeah.
Something else too, and this is like a super lazy trick that I've learned recently that I've started doing sometimes. Like when I just want like lighter values, and it doesn't really, the specific colors don't really matter that much. I'll make a couple of selections just so I can see what I'm about to do, and make like a levels adjustment. And you know, find the point where it's not blowing out basically and losing detail, which I don't know, is somewhere about right there. And then I will just I'll fill that in, and then render on that. And so it's a really easy way, like if I wanted to, like, you know, like brighten. Why is that not doing anything?
Wow, that's a really neat,
there we
that's
go.
a neat trick.
But you see how like it's sort of like it's bringing it all out, but it's really only affecting the lightest parts because it's a levels adjustment, you know?
And this is something that you can do this in Photoshop, can you?
It's almost like a dodge effect.
What's that?
It's almost like a dodge effect, but
a little bit, yeah. And I'm not, you know, I'm kind of not worrying about this too much because I want it to kind of equally, you know, brighten everything a little bit. But you know, it adds another, you know, a little bit of, you know, and then on the other side, we can even use it on the other side. I'm thinking, I guess, I'm going to do a rim light around this, but if I don't, whoops, actually, I'm going to do it. We'll do another. What I want to do here. Let me just pick another hard light layer. Why not? All right. So, I'm thinking. I want to get a little bit lighter than this blue. I don't want to be anywhere near as bright as the other side. And let's shift it a little tealish, which should really set off well with the water. This is kind of like, I've got a cat that's got green eyes. And if I wear, you know, whoops, I'm trying to get that selection there. Hold on a second. Wrong layer. But if I wear a green t-shirt around this cat, like, you know, her eyes just seem to look neon, you know? And so a lot of times if you've got a chunk of color somewhere, then using that as sort of it's kind of gives like an echoing, strengthening effect to these blues. Like these blues would not pop as well if there wasn't a little blue down there at the bottom, you know?
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
So talking about the red moon, my concern with it would be that if you use red, would it potentially kind of flatten out because he's warm? Like he's got a warm to cool. Is that something that you're worried about?
I love the fact that the color of the moon has become the discussion. Let me make sure that what layer is. I've got a
You're kind of
soft.
worried about the saturation, Dave, like saturated
Basically, what
red.
I'm saying is red moon not happening. Why?
Y'all really want that red moon. All right. So if here's what we could do is if we go I'd have to change these lines also. Color those lines. I don't want to blow them out completely. And then I would take that and do the what layer was that? Was that right layer? Yeah. And instead of blue, we do that. Let's just see what it looks like.
Jim Kleins asks if there's any chance that a high full resolution version of this image would be made available to download. It'd be interesting to practice inking and coloring along with the 2 guest stream replays. Yeah, absolutely. The only way I know to put up a high resolution is on Gumroad. I need a way to share it that doesn't cost money because I can't. Oh no, it's a picture. You know what? I'll put it on Gumroad. It'll be free. That'll work. All right.
Awesome. What do y'all think about the red? I'm open to the red. I had to finagle this a little bit.
I think it was desaturated. I think you had it earlier.
Yeah, like I was trying. That was pretty saturated, but
I just feel like so you're going with the blue on his arm there, and it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like how it looks when and to me at that point, the moon would probably need to be a bit of a cooler color, or would it? I don't know.
No, it would. It would. I'm sort of. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have to. No, like but if we made it blue though, it would look cool.
Yeah. So there we go. There's a point where colors have to work with the picture.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of editors that I think. I say a lot. I've worked with some editors in the past, long past, nobody recent, that did not understand. It's like, well, just make that purple instead. And it's like, okay, well, if we make it purple, then that blue doesn't work anymore, and that red doesn't work anymore, and that orange doesn't work anymore. It's like, it's kind of like it's a formula, and every palette is different. But you just take a chunk out. You can't like replace with an equal, if it's green and go, oh, let's just make it red. Like all of a sudden the palette's something else, And so, but anyway, yeah, this is I do like the blue.
Yeah,
I think
you were always.
What's that?
It was always going to be blue, wasn't it?
I was thinking about the red. I really was, but yeah, I don't think it's. Guess what this one needs. And plus, the blue just helps to bring out his warmth, even more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking. It's possible a red moon it's a warm with a warm.
Right.
My.
And I'm going to desaturate this a little. I don't want to be quite as intense as the blue that's on top, but it basically is kind of a bit of a reflective light. It's not quite as intense on this side.
So going back to what you did, Kurt, with the with that adjustment and the mask, am I right? There isn't a dodge tool in Clip Studio, right?
I never use a dodge tool in Photoshop. I don't. So I don't know if Clip has one or not. I honestly have no idea.
Okay. I was curious because I know you try to follow some tutorials or whatever, and it's not always a one-to-one correlation from Photoshop to Clip, and I think that's, if I remember correctly, that's one of the things that I was missing from Clip Studio.
Yeah, like I'm so very basic in like how I use the software. Like I know this, I mean, there's more layers here than I intended when I started, but other than a few too many layers, like you guys don't see me doing a whole lot of like, you know, weird technical stuff. It's like lasso or brush. Like that's pretty much it. Like there's so many, a lot of software does a lot, and I don't use any of it. It's like, you know, even Photoshop, it's like it'll cook your breakfast for you if you like know how to do it, but I just don't, you know, I don't know how to do any of it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really uses the couple of little things, and even with brushes, you basically use one brush for 90% of things, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, Peter Steigerwald was also saying the same thing. You know, he uses a very old version of Photoshop, if I remember correctly. Very, you know, a process suited to him that's not, you know, incredibly complicated. So it's actually good to see this and good to see how you work. That you don't need to, you know, get all crazy with it. So,
yeah. Every colorist, like Nolan Woodward told me one time, and it's totally true. He's like, there is many ways to color as there are colorists, and that's the truth. Like, you know, there's so many ways to do this stuff that you could take 10 people, you know, and give them the same software, and they're gonna find 10 different ways to make it happen, you know. But so I'm thinking that these stars need to be a little bit brighter. We can't really see these stars very well. And I'm thinking we do.
wow.
What do I want to do here? Sorry, I'm thinking out loud. But yeah, right now there's a dark blue color on that, so it's why it's not showing up anywhere.
I kind of liked how you did it just a minute ago, where you were kind of going from left to right, bottom to or top to bottom.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Like starting like brighter at the top and fading going down, or was it across? I don't know what I did.
Some of the stars in the upper left-hand corner, and then leaving a lot there, yeah, like that.
Oh,
and then
yeah, so you get like a nice little like flow into yeah. I'm gonna touch that a little bit right there.
Yeah, just a tiny bit.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, like these kind of stars look cool. If you want to punch them up a little bit, like because size wise, like you know, you can definitely see them. They're very subtle and they're meant to be subtle. But I did want to say just if anyone is doing this and wants to like punch them up, which I don't know if I will like or not, but I want to show you how to do it anyway. Control click your inks layer, and if they're on a transparent layer, it will just select the black basically on the inks. Invert that selection so that you're only looking at the white of the page, basically, or the white that's left over. And then I will use the wand on the sky to limit it to, and the scars are sparkling now, but to limit it to just the sky. Now that looks really cool.
It does.
Yeah, someone clip this and put it on TikTok. I don't actually have a TikTok. So what I'm going to do now is expand that selection by like 2 or 3 pixels, let's say 3 pixels. And what that does is it gives you a little bit more space around them to color, you know, which again, like I don't really think this is what this needs necessarily. But it's something you can do really easy, kind of punch those up. You do like it?
Yep.
Awesome. And then if you look at that, you're like, that's cool. It looks a little chest, is it?
No,
I didn't hear it.
Apparently the crescent, the moon in his hand is...
Oh, yeah, I haven't done anything with that yet.
Okay. Yeah.
It's what now?
Same color. It's lagging a bit.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I haven't done anything.
Looks okay here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lag. Oh, and Henry says it's okay now. Hopefully, yeah, okay. Dan says it's okay.
Let me check my OBS. I'm good. I don't think I have anything going on.
I had no lag here, so it might have been me, and I think I'm hosting. I am hosting, so it would be me.
But yeah, what did somebody say about this? It's the same color as the thing on his chest.
There it goes.
Yeah, he pulls it out from his chest in the show.
I love that texture brush. We should use it everywhere.
Yeah.
I do too. I got that from Matt Wilson a while back, like years ago. I was like, dude, what is that brush you're using? He's like, here, I'll send it to you. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know where it came from. I don't know anything about it. But I don't feel comfortable sharing it because he gave it to me. But yeah, like he it's a cool brush. It's just got a nice little texture on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can do like some kind of like, let's see. These shapes are kind of random. I don't make better shapes out of them maybe, but look a little sharper maybe.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
And let's see, we'll do a little very subtle, very subtle. I'm a big fan of subtle glows.
So what you're doing here, you described in a previous video, and it was, I don't know why I didn't do that, and well, there's a reason, because you made the point about it, is whenever you do highlights or bloom or whatever, it's over the line layer, not under.
Yes. I get so many questions. People are like, my special effects suck. Like, why don't they work? And I'm like, on top of the lines. It's like, okay. Like,
I don't know why that was lost on me, but when you mentioned that, it was a revelation.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like this is one of those times where like we could call this at any point, and it would probably be all right. Or I could sit here and do this for another hour. We're getting close, I think, to being. Usually, when I do more staring at it than coloring, that's the point where I'm like, all right, yeah, I think we're getting close.
It looks great. Okay, I have one request.
Yeah.
His eyes are kind of a blue glow.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you were going to say the moon needs to be red.
And also, while you do that, Art9 asks how your coloring progresses on Danny Oliver's Coddlesworth Clockwork Circus. Is he satisfied with the drawing? And which issue did they come up with?
How is coloring process on which issue did they come up with? I don't quite follow that part of the question, but I think I just did a couple of covers for that, if I remember. Yeah, I don't remember. I think that was some. I think that was just. Wait a minute. I don't remember. I don't remember if those are interiors or covers, but I don't know. I don't know what you mean by which issue. I haven't done a whole lot on that, hardly at all. So I don't really know. Sorry.
All right. Eyes are glowing blue. It looks amazing. I think it looks great.
Thank you. That makes me feel good. I appreciate it. I'm gonna get a little bit. If I get this thing to work, there we go. A little bit more on this water, I think. And just to bring up like the level of detail to everything else here. That's one thing that's an easy trap to fall into when you like you start on something. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna detail this. It's gonna be awesome, and then you like do a whole lot, and then you realize like now I have to do that everywhere. So I always try to like remember that. Oh yeah, I got to come back here and do something with this at some point.
That really, really works. So bringing his color into the water, it looks like it's
it looks like it's reflecting. Yeah.
I've drawn trees and then drawn a couple of leaves, and it's like a full leaves with detail in them. And then I think, what did I just do? Because yeah, welcome to what I'm going to do for the next day and a half.
I hear you. How was are we good with the eye glows?
Yeah, I think they look great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, the only other thing that I would really do at this point, if let's say, one thing that I would probably try and then see if I like or not is to do a subtle glow around the moon. Subtle, small, subtle glows. I like the one thing that bugs me again. I look at a lot of portfolios. I look at a lot of beginner colorist work. My Discord is full of wonderful colorists that have been around me for years. But there's so much that usually happens when there's a shape that an artist intends for that to be the shape. Don't go nuts with your glows and blow out the shape and lose the shape. I know that that's very basic advice, but I see this a lot. You know, if I came in here and it's like, all right, I want to make this glow and like do this, you know, I don't want to do that, you know. So what I am going to do is I'll show you all some more trickery here.
What about his the black shape in the crescent on his chest? I think that's supposed to be a little bit light, right, Dave? A little bit lighter than.
I don't know, truthfully, actually, I don't know. I know when I was drawing it, and then when it was being inked, there were a lot of requests to do something more textural with it. But
yeah,
I was just looking at the Disney Plus costume.
The stage that you're at, all of a sudden, we're talking redrawing at that point, so we won't do that to you.
No, yeah. What I'm trying to do right now, I forgot to. I'm going to expand this selection like a couple times. Nope. Make it a little bit bigger than the moon. And let me just fill this with a color. And I don't know if I like that color. It's temporary. And then I'm going to blur it. And I reserve the right to change my mind about this. I already don't like it. So,
see, I really like it.
Oh, you did like it?
I mean, hey, look, you know, but yes, I liked it.
Hold on, let's see. Let me see if I can make myself like it. Hold on, let me try that again. My first thought was it steps all over it, but I'm probably a little more. Why is that doing that?
Yeah,
I'm confused.
All that detail on the moon, and Jimmy did a great job with it.
Mm-hmm.
I always do that with the understanding that it's almost just going to be blown out for it to work. But I don't want to.
Yeah, I can definitely lighten that or do something else with it. Trying to see about how. Yeah, we'll do that, and then I don't necessarily want this over him everywhere, so it doesn't look horrible, but I want to keep that hard edge there just a little bit more, at least around his head. So I'm kind of painting that out a little bit. And as far as the color of that, I don't think it needs to be that bright necessarily.
Eric, what do you think? Bright?
I kind of like it bright. I don't know why.
Do you?
Yeah.
There's something about it.
You really hate it like that? Okay, look, if you really hate it like that, it's your work. And this is why I keep my mouth shut generally when I'm working with anybody, because you know, next thing you know,
well, I'm extra questioning today because of who I'm coloring, honestly. But I'm questioning myself more than I probably would. Here's my only issue with that particular color, and this is a good little lesson here. I'm gonna save this real quick.
This is
You think it's matching his eyes too much?
What's that?
You think it's matching his eyes too much? So it looks like it's shining.
No, I don't think it's messing with his eyes. I just that color is going to go really gray, especially some of this here. I think in CMYK. So I'm going to save this as a PSD real quick, and I'm also wait on that to save. There we go. And I'm also going, what was the other thing I was about to do? Make sure I think, yeah, the clip file should have recorded, I think. So I'm going to close this and open Photoshop. And let me move this over here. Where did I stick that? David Finstream, colors. All right, so watch. It doesn't look bad. It's just I knew it was going to shift a lot because like that blue is too awesome for print. It's like great blue. It ain't happening though. I actually think I like it better.
Yeah,
in CMYK. Yeah, the blue was throwing it off a little bit.
I think
I don't like. There's something on his eyes. The glow in his eyes is bugging me, and I know exactly what it is. And I'm in Photoshop now. Let me go back to clip. Already, like, wait a minute. I need to.
When you're coloring, how often does this happen where the whole picture really comes together fast, and then almost that much time again, just kind of going back and forth over tiny little details?
I usually don't spend a lot of time. I wanted to show you, I think, is it that one or that one? No, it's not that one. It's that one. This is the closest. If you're in clip, this you can hit Control Y and pull this up. The CMYK US sheet fed coded V2. What does that mean? I have no idea. I just know it's the closest profile to the one in Photoshop. You know, you can see that shifting here too. You know, it's not like it's useless. It's just, you know, compared to Photoshop's, I'm not as big of a fan of it. But on his eyes, I think it would look cool if we had like the tops blocked, so it was only coming out of the bottom.
Yep.
Like that, and so you don't lose that shape that saved her in there. What do you guys think? Are we good? I think this is.
Yeah, I think.
If I had another hour, like I said, I could probably, you know, keep on going. But
great.
I like how it turned out. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it came out great. I knew I was going to like it. I had no doubt, but I liked it more than I thought I was going to like it.
Yeah. Like the biggest thing for me, like again with this particular character, was that stuck out to me is that from an art side is that I wanted the warm colors. I just thought he looked really cool on TV with warm. The glowing eyes, again, like in order to make those glow, he's got to be pretty dark. But I want you guys to notice the value of, you know, even these warm whites like feel so much different than these cool whites. You know, as long as right next to each other, especially. But yeah, like anytime you can play with compliments, even if they're subtle compliments, you know, it does make a big difference.
And I would have said it, and I think you would agree, Eric, that a white character like that, if we're sitting down to paint, that would be a real challenge. And
yeah,
it looked easy.
The biggest thing that I try to do is, and I guess this is really what, like, when everybody asks about, well, how do you choose your palettes? Like, and it's kind of like asking an NBA player, like, how do you play basketball? Like, no, I'm not equating myself with basketball players, but you know, it's such a broad thing, but it's the simplest stuff that makes the biggest difference. It's like, find, when you're deciding on your colors, think in terms of value first. It's like you want a dark value, you want a mid-tone value, you want a bright value, and what that does, and I think a lot of people don't quite realize this, and it's why anyone does like a sketch of any kind. Like if I were to, let's see, I'm going to pull this over for just a quick second so we can look at that, and I'm going to draw something here real quick just to show what I'm talking about. So let's say that this is that I'm setting up this particular page here. So I've got let me get a brush that's not that slow. There we go. So we've got, here's the cover. It starts off, it's dark, and we've got a big bright moon, and then we've got like you know, him. It starts off kind of mid-tone. Let's just say he's here. So like, if I'm coloring this, then I've by process of elimination got rid of a lot of options for myself for each one of these areas. You know what I mean? It's like, I know that sounds really kind of straightforward, and this is, I mean, this covers, it's just a character on basically a black background, so it's not the best example for this analogy, but
I want to criticize your anatomy there a little bit, but I'll let
it's basically half as good as yours. But anyway, if I know this needs to be dark, and I know this needs to be a mid-tone, and I know this needs to be white, then that narrows down all of my color choices to dark colors. You know, if I still want this to be dark, those colors have to be dark. And so that rules out, you know, huge sections of the color wheel and of color choices, because there are lots of colors that if I do this, that's where we've broken the whole composition. It's not dark, you know. But if I pick a blue that's like here, well, we're still in the same kind of value range, you know. And same thing with the midtones. It's like if I'm picking, you know, if I need colors that are midtones, then pick midtone colors. Like it immediately, when you have a plan like this, it immediately narrows your options considerably for all of your choices, because you have 16.7 million possibilities in that square, and you don't have to use all of them. You know. But this, what I try to do, like in my own work or when I'm coloring, is like, if I want this figure to go more into the background, kind of like I did with him, I wanted him to like feel like he's coming out of this ink, you know, like, so I went about as dark as I could possibly go. So in those areas, you know, I'm using colors that are closer to the background value than his value, you know, and so I'm just bringing values in that are closer to that. But if you have a plan, and I know that seems very obvious, but a lot of colorists just want to go. But if you don't have any idea about your value setup, then you're going to have a hard time picking colors, because that's the first step is you're picking values first, you know. Hopefully that makes sense.
It makes absolute sense. And I know both Eric and I have struggled painting. We paint the figure first completely, and then we say, what do we want to do for a background? Early dealing
Which is
with
exactly how art should be made, right?
16 million colors, yeah, and we're totally lost. So yeah, that makes actually a lot of sense. It's a much better way to go about it. I bet you could almost pick any color in the background you want.
I could. I mean, that's actually what's interesting about the way I colored this. We could actually change that color. So if I come in here with that and grab that color, I can start shifting this, and it's, I mean, obviously there's some hues and some values are going to work better than others. Like I might tone that saturation down, that purple, but all of these colors, they give it a different feel. But the values are there. Like the values are what makes it work. It's not the color choices so much as, you know, and they're not all winners, but you know, but like I said, now it's like, well, this feels kind of creepy. Like what's happening in this scene? Like this, like something wrong is going on here, because we got that's what sickly green means usually. But yeah, like it like color choices are 90% value choices. Like and regardless of what medium you're working in or anything, like and I think in those same terms, you know, is always value first. The colors, Dave McKay one time, he said this, of course, famously, but all over the internet, I think, but we were at a dinner one time, and it was like, I'm going to drop some names, Dave, because I was such a small fish in a big pond. It felt like at this show, but it's like Justin Ponzer, you know, rest in peace. Dave McKay, Jordy Belair, Tamara Bonvillain, Nolan Woodward. Like it was just like Laura Martin. Like it was just a little who's who, you know, to me of colorists. And we were at this dinner, And you know how when everybody's talking at dinner and being real loud and there's 12, 14 people around, and all of a sudden it like gets quiet and someone says something that seems so, it gets too quiet and then someone's sentence cuts through. Dave said, colors don't matter. And it was like, you know, like needle scratch the whole table. Value and contrast are what matter. And it was like, it was so funny, but it really is like, it's all about values and the differences in the values. Like, and I never forgot that, because it's true. Like the color choices themselves are usually secondary, you know, to
he's
to
coloring
the big
all,
shapes.
he's coloring all my Walking Dead covers right now.
Oh yeah, that's
the
awesome.
Sometimes just it's like a real surprise, and they all work so well. He's very, very good.
He's amazing. Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. He's one of my like heroes. I mean, as far as colorists go, like he really can do no wrong. So, but yeah, I think this is a good spot to sort of
All right.
call it as far as from this goes. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody's got. I haven't been able to watch the chat or anything, but yeah, if there's any questions that you guys have, or I'm happy to answer before we wrap it up.
I think we actually did a pretty good job of covering all the questions, Eric. You think? I mean,
Awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we got quite a few, and just your natural explanation as you're going along answered so much.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, and thank you for the plugs on the courses in there. I see that, yeah. But I really appreciate that, and all of the if you do sign up for those, I think there's a link to my Discord when you sign up too, and you can get in there, and that's where a lot of and actually I'll put a link in here for you guys now, because why not get a couple of I'm sure there's some people in here that are into coloring and might want to join that. If you wouldn't mind, I can post that real quick. Maybe I can post that.
And there is a link in the description of the video. Can you just click right on those, Eric? I can't remember how that works.
Probably not. I'm surprised it showed up. I don't think you can post links on my screen.
I know Russ has been posting the links to your learn.comicolor.com. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. But and there's a Discord too, though. If you have just random weirdo coloring questions that we get, and we try to help each other out, and it's real low key. I try to keep the community kind of small. Honestly, it's it can easily. A lot of communities can quickly devolve on the internet, and so I'm trying to trickle people in every now and then. Like,
if you want to, Kurt, just paste it into the private chat here.
Okay.
And then I can.
Yeah, and then you can put a
link. I can paste it into the chat for Discord.
Yeah, but that'd be cool. Well, this was really fun. I want to thank you for inviting me and being able to do this. Had a blast.
Well, I was thrilled when you.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Okay, well, I actually do have another picture. I wanted to mention before we were talking. So we always, for you guys watching, we always set up 15 minutes before we start, just so we can, kind of run through things and make sure that everybody's here. And I wanted to mention I've got a picture actually that I was hoping I could convince you to color.
Yeah, absolutely.
I looked at the time and we had 16 seconds to go. I thought, okay, well, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, no problem at all. Here's a question for you. When doing the huge adjustments, what order do the huge numbers shift the colors? I'm colorblind and can't tell by looking at the picture. I need to see the RGB numbers. Interesting. I don't reference the numbers at all. Like I don't have any like I have no knowledge of like how those numbers mix, especially the RGB ones are particularly confusing to me. but yeah, I have talked to a couple of other people on my Discord that are colorblind, and it's kind of the same thing. Like where if you focus on value, obviously there's some color combinations that are tough, and I feel for you. I do. But yeah, focusing on value will get you a long way. And I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that. I don't think, though.
I just put up Jim Klein's hue adjustment, stupid autocorrect, and I go to open one, and then you go to close it, and it jumps up.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, if you wonder why,
Oh, hue adjustment. Okay, yeah. My answer is the same, or lack of answer is still the same, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't really know the numbers. I would say like if you, I will say if you think about it in terms of like distance, like let me draw something real quick here. Try to explain try to explain myself. Um, anytime when people think contrast, they usually think in terms of strictly like black and white, right? You know, you've got your a light value, and let's say there's a gray and there's a dark value. Now, obviously, in comics, your dark value is not going all the way to black, but let's say it's that. Um, you know, we can set up a piece of art that starts white and then maybe has some dark in it and has this in it, and like that's just using value to do like a really simple composition. But what most I think where most people, at least that ask me when it comes to contrast, if you're just thinking in terms of black and white, this works. But you can do the same thing with any of the other variables when it comes to color. If I pick, let's say this, well, it's 50% gray on 50% gray, and then like go across the color wheel, let's say, and I'm going to pick a brush that's not slow. Sorry, some of these texture brushes are kind of slow, and like I'll go straight across, let's say through red. So that's a single hue with a massive amount of contrast. We could make a piece of artwork here where that's our base and like that's our whatever, and then we're supporting it with all of this stuff. That's all technically one color, and I didn't even change the value of that technically. Now this value is getting darker as we go across. You can't get too mechanical in thinking of value that way, because like going from here across, it absolutely is getting darker. And so there's value at work here, even when there's not, when the number doesn't change. It's still value at work. And then you could do the same thing like with, I mean, when you introduce hue, you're also introducing saturation, but then you're thinking about your color wheel, and you can do the same thing where, let's say we've got one end of our contrast spectrum is, let's say, red, and then we cut across to like one of the green colors, and then go back up this way. It's like we could make a whole painting out of just that, and we didn't really change the value very much, but we messed with the hue. So it's like all of those things are different ways that you can help tell a story with color. It's about the differences in the color. Like contrast is really just a measure of distance. It's like, especially in this wheel, it's very obvious. But you can kind of see that there are values here that are brighter than others. Like these yellows and oranges and things are significantly brighter than the purples and blues. So even in the hues, sometimes that can be dictated by that. But I mean, that's how I think about it, though. It's just the distance between, let's say, that orange and like this red, that's a lot of contrast. We're going all the way across here. But if I pick like that same red with an orange that's like closer to it, it's less contrast. There's less difference, so anytime I want more contrast, more focus on a certain area, I'm going to always go for those areas where I've got a bigger distance to cover, because the larger that distance is, you can really think of it as like tension almost. Is how I look at it. It's like if I pick this little yellow here, well, the further I get away in any direction is going to create tension, and the further I get away, the more tension it's going to create. And so playing with that is to me how I kind of measure out almost everything that I do. It's like if I've got an area that like this water, for example, it's all meant to kind of be one basic value. I mean, there's a little bit of difference in here, but you can see in the color wheel, as I slide it around, all these colors, they're all sort of mid-tone colors. They're all like in the same family. They're close together literally. They're close together within this box. They're close together within this system. But in the places where I want more contrast, well, that's when I'm getting further away. That's when I'm getting yellows against the blues and, all that stuff. But to me, thinking of contrast in terms of a rubber band is what works for me anyway. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but
it doesn't.
That's how I think about it.
I'm going to be watching this part in particular back a few times because a lot of it made sense, and then there were places where I feel like I was kind of falling behind trying to,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but I think it's great. I think it makes sense. I just don't totally understand it yet. But I'm gonna.
Yeah, like a good way to practice this, I would say, for anybody that's like trying to get better at working with values and just color theory in general, is like pick one hue, like one hue around the wheel. You know what I mean? And let's say I pick, we did blues. Let's say I pick this orange, and sort of mentally lock yourself into only that box. So at no point do you ever wiggle the hue ring. You're just in this box. And what that does is, for example, I could come in here and like, all right, let's say this is, I don't know why I paint a canvas on a canvas, but this is how my brain works. But let's say this is like my starting value, and I'm going to start building up from right here. Let's say I imagine putting like a stake in the ground, and we're tying off our little bungee cord for all these other colors. Well, if I'm making a background, I'm going to keep this low tension. I'm going to keep it close, and so I'm going to have all of my my trees or whatever's going on, and this is background. So I don't need this to stand out from itself. So I'm going to choose colors that, are all literally close together. You know what I mean? And then pick like one accent color and say like build your composition around that little thing, whatever that thing is. Maybe it's a guy, maybe it's a house, maybe it's whatever it is. But I've got all of this like huge range of possibilities here, and I never leave this box. But what it does is it sort of trains you to think in terms of just value and a little bit of saturation here and there too. But we do some kind of detail on this to pull it out, but I still have not left, that little, that one little area. And so I've got this whole big composition now. It's not a very good composition, but it's a thing, and I'm only using that one hue, that one color. And you can go in and change that color, and you can see that the differences are still the differences, and so it still works, but it's a really cool way to kind of practice this stuff, and then when you get to this point, then introduce one color, one other color. It's like, we've got a blue, do we want this to feel like cool and calming? Do we pick colors that are right next to these colors so that we get a nice, little analogous scheme? But again, these colors are all close together. Like they're all forming little, areas. And again, this is a terrible composition. And this thing is like too bright, and, this thing is too in the center and all that stuff. But yeah, just, you can kind of think about it in stages like that of maybe you introduce one color. And so like, let's say we don't like the cool analogous thing, go get a completely different color, go get something and figure out how to fit that into your value plan, whatever it might be. And that way it's sort of it's almost like a traditional way of thinking, where it's like you've got the colors on your palette and that's pretty much it. So if you kind of force yourself into those kind of limitations, that's, if you want cooler colors, most of the time using less colors is an easy way to do it. Sorry, go ahead. I'm just rambling on here.
Not much better, but it does make sense. That part, actually, that whole part Totally 100% made sense. I understood that. And
Awesome. Excellent.
I'm going to say, I don't know, Eric, but for me, I'm going to go with about 75% understood that whole thing.
That would be a lot for me. I don't think I ever get that that
Maybe.
percentage myself.
Yeah,
Maybe so.
it definitely needs a rewatch. And yeah, color theory is incredibly interesting. And
I do have a series on my channel called Caveman Color Theory, and I called it that because I do think that we overcomplicate color theory. Like there's so many terms, and most of the videos about it kind of stick in the same loops of here's a color wheel, here's cool, here's warm, here's the, you know, and it's like you've seen it all 100 times, you get done and you still have no idea how to use any of it, you know. And so I really do think in terms of just if you start to think about contrast as just the differences in the distances between colors, you'll start to see it everywhere. I'll be honest, like because you know you can pull in like do we have like 5-10 minutes for an explanation of something, or I don't want to go on too long here. I know we're
I think, I mean, this is incredibly valuable. So absolutely.
Yeah, like I love talking about this stuff, and so I'm just gonna go to ArtStation real quick because it's like a cool website and there's tons of cool art, and I haven't like pre-planned this or anything, and so
I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm already like, how are we going to apply this to our next painting session?
Well, hopefully we don't see anything that YouTube will like demonetize us on. But looking at this way, I think is a great way to learn about color theory because, like for example, if you look at this, and are you guys able to see this pretty well? You can kind of see this. Okay. So like this here, like this is the community like trending page. So this is like the stuff that sticks out to people. It's visually striking. It's artwork that's cool. And there's a reason that it's cool. Like you'll start to see similarities in like this lady, for example. The entire drawing is warm in the most important area, right around her face, we shift to green. You know, it's the uniqueness of that green on that page that makes that work so well. There's no green anywhere else to like pull away from it. It's an isolated individual color. And that was something else Nolan Woodward taught me years ago when he looked at my portfolio, is he's like, if you want something to stand out, then make that thing unique. Make it a color that only exists in where you want it. Because I had done this, it was a Hack/Slash page, I'll never forget. They're sitting in a coffee shop, you know, there's a bunch of other patrons and stuff. And I put one of the lead characters in a blue hoodie. And then the employees that work there were like in a similar blue, but not quite. And there was like some more blue around. And like, he's like, he looked at it and he's like, make his shirt any other color than that blue. Like and it was like light bulbs came on because like, oh, of course, like, you know, but to get back to my point here, it's like, you can look at all of these and you'll start to see similarities like that of looking how similar in value like all of this stuff is around the edges and gets bright in the center. You know, the green just helps to set it off. If you like look at this, like this is a busy piece, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of big things. But if you'll look at it, I'm going to actually copy this into Clip real quick because to me this is it. I don't know. To me, this stuff is cool. Hopefully, you guys think it's cool. But look at the detail level in all of this area, except for right around the character. Like just right there. Why is that not filling with a color? There we go. Like if we invert that and look at this, like just notice how little is happening in that area versus the rest of the image in the background, because the character's, you know, basically the darkest thing in the area. He's surrounded by lighter values and he's got that breathing room around it. You know, there's a tree back there, but it's lighter than everything else. And so the tree and the sky form a lighter value shape, you know, right here. That's a terrible color, but we've got this light value here. And then the rest of this detail, it's like, much darker values, or it's a mix of values, but in the one place that he needs the lightest thing next to the darkest thing is right here and right here. And then really the two big focal points on this piece is you got these dark shadows, you got these bright highlights. Here, dark figure, bright highlights around him. Everything else is just supporting. It's like this whole area is basically one big value. A lot of colors in there, but it's all this very similar value, But that's what I try to do is like I'll just like randomly go to ArtStation and like pull up, different pieces of artwork and just see like why does it work? If you look at this, let's see. So think about that shape and that shape, which we're basically just surrounding this character with. If I block this off. Like, look at how little is happening. It's like, this is, again, like the busy versus calm, too. But even from a color standpoint, it's like, there's a big dark value here, big dark value here. I didn't select that very well. So you've immediately got the light on dark from 20 feet away. You can see this. But once you get into it, well, then you've got, but you're basically playing the same game again, but this is now your canvas. So if, like, you can imagine... If I invert this and just look at this, well, again, the hair makes a big value shape and the ear, like all of that pretty much is one value. But just those few little bright spots on the nose and the chin and right here and this fire thing, like it immediately just sucks you right in. And you don't see those colors anywhere else, And so that to me is it's a huge oversimplification of this, but this is how broadly I think about this, though. Like the specifics and details are cool, but it's like, look at this piece, and I'm just randomly going through here. Tons and tons of green. Then we get a dark value on the character, put a bright moon behind him. So your max contrast is that light against the darkest part on the page, right where you want the audience to look. Everything else is closer together. Like, that's what I mean when I say further, this is further apart. This is all closer together. Is that
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that do anything for you?
Yeah.
But I know it's like such a simple way of thinking about it. But honestly, that's how my brain works. So if it's important, stretch it out, increase the tension. If it's a place where you need the audience to chill, like look at all these buildings back here. Like you look at it and it's like, oh man, there's all these buildings and all this detail. But look at the color choices and look how close they all are to each other. This is basically a little analogous color palette back here. And, if you have a hard time seeing this, a lot of apps have like this has, what is it called? Artistic might do this. Nope, that's not it. There's one of these filters will let you, technically, like you could blur it and that, or even a Gaussian. What is it called? Mosaic would work. Forget the detail. Like this works like this with no detail at all. We've still got a strong focal point here, because all of these colors are very close together. All of these colors are very close together. But where are they far apart? Right there in the middle. Does that make sense?
It does. We're like totally dropping the ball on any kind of hosting duty right now because we're just soaking this in.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I could talk about this all day, but anyway, that's just some things you guys can think on. How much work is the yellow doing on that piece? Yeah. There's no other yellow that bright anywhere. That the power of that of uniqueness. Her hair color on this is totally different from everything else. And it doesn't really matter, what art style it is. Like her red eyes on this alone, create differences, I was trying to find some other good examples of this, but that's gorgeous. I don't know who this is, but yeah, again, colors that are close together, colors that are far apart, There you go. I'll send you guys an invoice for all these lessons. No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much, though, again for having me. I will stop running my mouth now.
Sure. Picture turned out incredibly. Maybe we can put it back up on the screen here.
Yeah. Let me pull this back up here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled with how that came out. I feel like we all learned a lot from the coloring process, and then it was great to get a whole bonus. Really more of an in-depth lesson into color. It really actually made a lot of sense for me, and I think Eric and I are going to be talking about this for.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And anytime, man, if there's another piece you got lined up or anything else, you got my email now, so
it's ready to go.
Down.
It's ready to go up right away. Thank you again, and thank you to all of you that have come by and watched and asked some really great questions. I think this was a great stream. We have one last super chat from Jim Klein. He says, "Thanks, Kurt. That was incredibly helpful." Thank you again, Jim. We really appreciate it, and thank you to all of you guys. I'll see you Monday night again for a Monday Night Draw. It is the 250,000 subscriber giveaway, so we'll be drawing some sketches and giving those away Monday night at 8:00. So we'll see you all then. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.